Chapter 21:18. Lu Li and Gan Lin didn't expect that they would be so popular. A group of young masters and young ladies were surrounding them, especially Lu Li. Many young ladies' eyes were glowing. They were looking at him with lust and flattery. He even suspected that if he gave a hint, these young ladies would take the initiative to come to him. The two of them quickly understood. Although the situation in the second heaven during the battle on Chaos Island didn't change on the surface, there were still many changes in the dark. The great demon king became the undisputed #1 person in the second celestial layer, and the demonic island also became the top force. Although the great demon queen had stated that she did not want to contend for hegemony, she had an eccentric style of doing things that did not make sense. For example, she pretended to be young Mistress E to participate in the Tournament of Geniuses. Therefore, the Asmodean Lord was regarded as the last person to be messed with by the major forces. Since the Asmodean Lord was not to be messed with, then the people under him, especially Lu Li. Many people had already given Lu Li a nickname, Little Devil. Lu Li wreaked havoc in the Stormy Sea area, killed 2 chosen ones, and even used the black tortoise fruit to buy the life of the Fu family patriarch of the Hall of Black Flames. After going to the Primal Chaos Island and killing Long Shirtion and Yun Kaiwe, he acted like the great demon king without any scruples. Most importantly, he was backed by the mysterious Yin Qingxi and the old Azura of the Fourth Tribulation Realm. In addition, the great demon king had killed Yun Shueishue and shattered the Phoenix Empress Divine clone for him. He was a small martial artist from the lower planes. Although he didn't seem to have any background, his background was shocking. His own strength was terrifying, and he acted without scruples. Who would dare to provoke such a person? For Lu Li, the great demon king had set down a rule that anyone over 1,000 years old could not attack him. How many people under 1,000 years old could be a match for Lu Li? Therefore, many forces regarded Lu Li as someone they could not afford to offend. Since they could not afford to offend him, they had to befriend him. From what Qin Zhan and the others could tell, Lu Li was really nice to his friends. With such a contrast, the people in the main hall naturally thought of ways to befriend Lu Li. Lu Li's attitude towards the young masters and young ladies who came over to befriend him became less friendly after he figured out. However, many young masters and young ladies still lined up to toast and greet them. Gan Lin treated those people much better. This was the Gan family's tradition. They treated everyone well. The people of the Gan clan looked harmless, but if they were angered at a critical moment, they would reveal their sharp fangs. The phenomenon of queuing up to toast disappeared after less than an hour, because Lu Hui personally brought 2 people into the hall. When they came in, all the young masters and young ladies' eyes lit up, including Lu Li and Gan Lin. 2 people came in. The young ladies' eyes lit up when they saw the young master. Lu Li and the others' eyes lit up when they saw the young lady. Over the years, Lu Li had met many girls and met many of the best ones. Therefore, he was more knowledgeable. There were many young ladies sitting in the main hall, including Lu Hui, who was also a top beauty, but he was not moved by any of them. At this moment, when he saw this woman, he was stunned just like any other man. A ripple appeared in his heart, and his calm heart became restless. The woman didn't wear any accessories. She was wearing a white and blue dress, which was clean and tidy. Her figure was not particularly exaggerated. It was very well proportioned and had a very harmonious beauty. Her face was not breathtakingly beautiful. The most beautiful thing about her was her eyes. Her eyes seemed to be able to speak, full of spirituality. When everyone saw her eyes, they felt as if they had been drawn in and were unable to extricate themselves. It was the same for the young master. There seemed to be some kind of magic in his eyes that could make those young ladies sink in and sink them forever. Powerful soul warriors. Lu Li came back to his senses soon. Maybe it was because he was immune to pretty ladies, or maybe he was on guard against the Zhang Sun family, but he came back to his senses after a while. He was taken aback. He was on guard against this young lady and the young master. The 2 young masters and young ladies of the Zhang Sun family were powerful, especially in terms of souls. If they were to make a move against him, he wouldn't even have time to react. On this thought, Lu Li's eyes grew colder. He felt threatened. The young masters and young ladies of the Zhongsun family were really something. They seemed to be at the later stage of the third tribulation, but their souls were so powerful that they could be compared to warriors at the peak of the third tribulation. A glint of surprise appeared in the eyes of a young lady of the Zhongsun family as well. Many young masters here were infatuated with Lu Li. Lu Li was the first one to come to his senses. He deserved his fame. Lu Li was so famous that he could not be underestimated. The young masters and young mistresses in the field gradually came to their senses. Many of them were still intoxicated, but more of them were secretly shocked. If the two young masters and young ladies had made a move, they would all be dead. Guys, let me make the introductions. Lu Hui said with a smile. This is young Master Zhongsun Wuk, the most powerful young master of the immediate Zhongsun family. This is Lady Zhongsun Ruyu, also the most powerful young lady of the Zhongsun family. The young masters and young ladies stood up to greet them. Only Lu Li and Gan Lin didn't move. Lu Li never cared about young masters and young ladies. What was more, the two used their soul skills as soon as they arrived, which made everyone fall for it. Lu Li was not happy. Recently, Gan Lin had been following Lu Li's lead. Since Lu Li didn't stand up, neither did Gan Lin. Everyone was standing, and only the two were sitting. Naturally, it was eye-catching. Zhongsun Wuk and Zhongsun Ruyu exchanged greetings with the others and then looked at Lu Li and Gan Lin. Zhongsun Wuk didn't get angry. Instead, he walked over to Lu Li with a smile, cupped his fists, and said, "You must be the famous young Master Lu, right? Nice to meet you, Wuk." Zhongsun Ruyu walked over as well. She bowed and said, "Greetings, young Master Lu." Many young masters and young ladies in the attic were surprised. Lu Li and Gan Lin didn't show any respect, but Zhongsun Wuk and Zhongsun Ruyu put aside their pride and saluted Lu Li. There's a reason why the Zhongsun family can prosper for so long. Lu Li nodded to himself. He could feel Zhongsun Wuk's displeasure, but he didn't show it. Zhongsun Wuk even saluted Lu Li. Yin Kai Wei was far more sophisticated than Zhongsun Wuk. Zhongsun Wuk was born in a top-level family, and he was more powerful than Lu Li. He was humiliated, but he could endure it. This was the kind of person that was impressive. What did a family rely on to grow stronger and stronger? Talents, of course. Where did talents come from? Apart from talents and resources, the most important factor was family education. Clearly, the Zhongsun family's family style was the best in the second heaven. The Zhongsun family was so polite, but Lu Li was not. He put on airs as soon as he arrived and didn't even stand up to greet them. This made Lu Li even more unhappy. It was the Zhongsun family that gave them a show of strength as soon as they came in. They were the ones that didn't talk about morality first. Now, it was Lu Li who was in the wrong. Since he was unhappy, Lu Li had to let it out. At the same time, he wanted to see how good the young masters and young ladies of the Zhongsun family were. He didn't stand up. Instead, he said indifferently, "Young master and young lady Zhongsun, I cannot accept your courtesy. What is the name of the skill they just released? It seems to be quite impressive. I almost fell for it. Can you tell me more?" Everyone was in an uproar. Lu Li's words made the hall seem to be at daggers drawn. The good atmosphere turned into an awkward one. Chapter 2119. Young Master Zhang's son and young lady were showing respect, but Lu Li didn't. He was crossing the line. This was how people felt. If they were just regular young masters and young ladies, it would be fine. But they were from the Zhongsun family, the leader of the 36 forces in the second heaven. They were the most powerful warriors of the young generation, and they represented the dignity of the Zhongsun family. Lu Li not showing them respect was like a slap to the face of the Zhongsun family. There was a trace of anger in the depth of Zhongsun Wuk's eyes, but it disappeared in an instant. He cupped his fist with a smile and said, "Young Master Lu, you are kidding. It is Wuk and Ruyu's fault. We apologize to you." With that said, Zhongsun Wuk bowed again. Zhongsun Ryu also showed some shame and bowed again. Since the Zhongsun family had shown them respect, Lu Li could not hold on to it anymore. He stood up and bowed back. Gan Lin stood up as well. The awkwardness disappeared. Soon, people were talking and laughing. But people were looking at Lu Li in a strange way. Zhang Sunwook and Ru Yu were looking at them in a softer way. Impressive. Lu Li saw everything. This member of the Zhang Sun clan really knew how to endure. Furthermore, just a few words and 2 salutes had changed everyone's impression of him. Perhaps in everyone's eyes, Lu Li was just an unreasonable, arrogant little devil. Zhang Sunwook and Ru Yu, on the other hand, were from big families. They were well-mannered and graceful. Lu Li didn't mind the way the young masters and young ladies treated him. He was more on guard against the Zhang Sun family. A real hero could adapt to circumstances. Sometimes face mattered. Sometimes it was not so important. Results and interests were the most important. Some young masters and young ladies from wealthy families knew how to create an atmosphere. Soon, the banquet became lively. People were toasting each other. One young lady performed a sword dance in public, which caused a lot of cheers. Something strange happened. Lu Li, Zhang Sunwook, and Zhang Sun Ryu were the focus of the banquet. But not many people came to toast Lu Li. Even if they did, they were just being polite. On the other hand, Zhang Sunwook and Zhang Sun Ryu were waiting in line. People were chatting happily with them. Compared to here, the difference was huge. Just now, people were waiting in line to toast Lu Li. Now that the 2 from the Zhang Sun family came, the tables were turned. Invisibly, Lu Li seemed to have been slapped in the face. Qin Zhan picked up his goblet and leaned over. He said to Lu Li in a low voice, "Young Master Lu, it seems that you are not well received tonight." Lu Li smiled. He drank up the goblet of wine and said in a low voice, "Do you think I have ever been favored? It's still okay now. How many people wanted to eat my flesh before?" "That's true." Young Master Qin laughed involuntarily. His gaze had a profound meaning as he looked at Zhang Sunwook, who had a smile on his face. He said, "He is an expert. Not only is he strong, but his methods are also powerful." "Yes, I admit defeat and admit my inferiority." Lu Li nodded slightly. After all, he was not from a big family. He was born in the wild. He did not have the ability to control the situation with a smile, nor could he learn it. A dog that bites does not bark. Lu Li secretly put up his guard against this young master of the Zhang Sun family. He must be careful when dealing with this man in the future. Otherwise, he could be killed by him without even knowing it. The banquet didn't end until midnight. Nothing serious happened afterward. Lu Li sat and drank in a low-key manner. He didn't have any conflict with Zhang Sunwook. Lu Hui and the others were relieved. At the same time, they felt it was a pity. They had thought there was going to be a fierce fight. The fierce battle between the dragon and the tiger began on the second night. The auction was held on the second night. Since there were some rare treasures to be sold, many young masters and young ladies from wealthy families were attracted. Lu Li was in private room number 2, while young Master Zhang Sun and young lady were in private room number 1. It could be seen that in the eyes of the Palace of Heaven Music, Lu Li's status was not as high as Zhang Sunwook's. It was mainly because Lu Li was not a relative of the Demon King. If he were the son or grandson of the Demon King, private room number 1 would be reserved for him. Lu Li didn't care about this. He didn't even watch the previous auctions, let alone make a bid. Later, when the Earth Dragon liquid came out, he made a bid. As soon as he made a bid, nobody made a bid. He got the Earth Dragon liquid at a price of 40 million divine origin gold. More than a dozen treasures were sold. Finally, Lu Li was interested, but he just looked at them out of curiosity. He didn't make a bid. The young masters and young mistresses in the private room were bidding excitedly. A secret treasure was sold for a high price of more than 100 million. The grade of this secret treasure was much lower than the Dust King's seal, but it was still a secret treasure. 100 million. The second last treasure, the fairy grass, finally came out. Before Lu Li could make a bid, Zhang Sun Ryu, who was in the private room next to him, made a bid. The entire auction was ignited. The young masters and young ladies of the Zhang Sun family didn't make a bid. This was their first time participating in the auction, but they made a bid of 100 million. The starting price of the fairy grass was only 30 million divine origin gold. Lu Li's expressions were awful. The function of the fairy grass was similar to the marrow. Apart from cultivating the body, it didn't have many other uses. Unless the people of the Zhangsun family also wanted to cultivate the body and were ready to embark on the path of the divine body, they wouldn't spend such a high price on the fairy grass. 120 million. Luli made up his mind and made a bid. The entire auction was stirred up. Many young masters and young ladies were especially excited. They didn't see a fierce fight last night, but now they did, and it was a head-on fight. 200 million. Luli had thought that Zhangsun Ryu would give in after he made a bid. Unexpectedly, she made a bid soon and without any hesitation, as if she wouldn't stop until she got the fairy grass. Luli only had 200 million divine origin gold. He had used 40 million divine origin gold before. He had several tens of millions with him, but he couldn't have 200 million divine origin gold in total. Therefore, he couldn't make another bid. Luli thought about it and asked someone to call Lu Haiyun over. He also took out some elixirs as collateral. In the end, Lu Haiyun gave him a limit of 1 billion. As a result, the scene became heated. Luli called 250 million, and Zhangsun Ryu called 300 million without any hesitation. It was as if the auction was no longer about treasures, but about the dignity of the Zhangsun family. 350 million, 400 million, 450 million, 500 million, 550 million, 1 billion. Even the young masters and young ladies in the private rooms were sweating in their palms, not to mention the people on the ground. Especially when Zhangsun Ryu raised the price from 550 million to 1 billion. At this moment, it was strangely quiet. Many people couldn't help but hold their breaths. Sweat broke out on their foreheads. The most powerful of the 36 forces had once again demonstrated its dominance today. At least, in terms of wealth, they had crushed all the young masters and young ladies here. Luli didn't make another bid. It was not that he couldn't make a bid. If he could offer several Xian Wu fruits, the Palace of Heaven Music could increase his limit to several billion divine origin gold. Not worth it. The fairy grass was as effective as half of the divine marrow, but it was worth it for several 100 million divine origin gold. Luli didn't think it was worth it for more than 1 billion. He wouldn't squander divine origin gold for the sake of warrior spirit. How different would he be from a playboy? A glint of coldness appeared in his eyes. The young masters and young ladies of the Zhangsun family didn't come with good intentions. Were they here to target him? Rustle, rustle, rustle. After a while, an escort came in, which confirmed Lu Li's speculation. The escort was from the Zhangsun family, and he came with an invitation. Later, Lady Zhangsun wanted to invite Lu Li over for a private chat to talk about the fairy grass. Chapter 2120. He had spent 1 billion divine origin gold just to get 3 angel grasses, and he was willing to offend Lu Li. After the auction, he immediately sent an invitation saying that he wanted to discuss the fairy grass with Lu Li. If there were no problems, Lu Li could eat the table in front of him. He waved his hand to let the escort leave, but the escort didn't. Instead, he added, "Our young lady said that she wants to trade the fairy grass for something in your hand." The guard retreated. Gan Lin revealed a mocking smile and said, "The young miss of the Zhangsun clan is very clever. She knew that you wouldn't hand over the black tortoise fruit, so she used this method to exchange for it. If it's just 3 stalks of celestial grass, I'm afraid you won't agree to it. That's why they raised the price to 1 billion to show their sincerity." Gan Lin was thinking the same thing as Lu Li. The most valuable things Lu Li had were the tortoise fruit, the relic iron, blood fairy, and the worms of the void. Almost no one in the outside world knew about godly metal. If they wanted to trade for it, using deity grass was far from enough. Blood Fairy's attainment in the field of divine patterns was very high, and her attainment would only grow higher and higher in the future. However, not many people in the outside world knew about this. The Zhangsun clan most likely would not be interested in the void worm. Therefore, it was highly possible that the other party was here for the black tortoise fruit. The Zhangsun family had as many experts as there were clouds in the sky, and there would definitely be many old undyings in the family. There would naturally be old undyings whose lifespans were about to run out, and it was only natural that they would want to exchange for the black tortoise fruit. As for the Zhang family wanting to harm him, Lu Li hadn't thought about this before. First of all, the Zhang family had nothing against Lu Li. The Zhang family would not make enemies for no reason. The second evil lord had set down the rule that if the young generation wanted to kill Lu Li, they would have to pay the price. The Zhang family dared not to take the risk. Thirdly, this was the Tianyin city. If he wanted to use force here, he would have to ask the experts of the Tianyin palace for permission. Lu Li was in deep thoughts. The Xin tortoise fruit could be traded, but the angel grass alone was not enough. If Zhang Ruyu could provide some other elixirs that could refine the body, then what was the big deal about giving the Zhang family one Xin tortoise fruit? The last item was a true secret treasure. Its rank was similar to the King Dust seal, and its price was also sky-high. Other than the number 1 private room, the young masters and young ladies of the other private rooms, including Qin Zhan and the others, all participated in the auction. In the end, the treasure was sold for a sky-high price of 800 million. It was won by a young master from a wealthy family. This treasure was supposed to be the finale of the auction, but because the angel grass was sold for a sky-high price of 1 billion, this treasure was overshadowed. Many young masters and young ladies were excited. Would little devil Lu Li turn the Heaven Music City upside down after being humiliated like this? If he were to clash head-on with the Zhang family's young master, then it would be a good show to watch. After the auction house was over, the Zhang family came again. They said that Lady Zhang Ruyu had invited Lu Li to a banquet in a tavern in the city. This restaurant was quite famous in the city. It was called the 100 Flowers Restaurant, and many cities had this kind of restaurant. Since they were in the city, Lu Li didn't think too much about it. He chatted with Ganlin for a bit and left for the escorts. Elixirs to cultivate the body were hard to come by. If the Zhang family could offer some good stuff, Lu Li could let them have 1 Xianwu fruit. After all, the Zhang family was not his enemy. If it was Black Flame Palace or Saint Origin Palace, he wouldn't agree even if they offered him 100 cubes of divine marrow. Be careful, Ganlin reminded. He didn't go with them. Since Zhang Ryu had only invited Lu Li, he didn't want to go. What if Zhang Ryu fell in love with Lu Li? If he went, he would ruin Lu Li's plan. There was a carriage waiting outside. The Zhang family had made good arrangements. They walked slowly into the city. It was not far away. In less than an hour, the carriage stopped outside a luxurious tavern. Lu Li got off the carriage. The escort showed him in person, and they arrived at a castle. Lu Li saw Zhang Ryu. Even though she didn't use her soul skill this time, she still looked beautiful and attractive in the dim light of the night. Greetings, young Master Lu. Thank you for the honor. Zhang Ryu lowered her body. From Lu Li's angle, he could faintly see her breasts and snow-white breasts through her slightly open collar. Zhang Ryu had changed into a robe, which made her look more charming. You are welcome, Lu Li said casually. He was still not happy. If Zhang Ryu had bought the fairy grass secretly and then invited him over for a talk, he would feel better. Was she trying to tell him how rich the Zhang family was when she bought the fairy grass in such a domineering manner? Young master, this way please. Zhang Ryu made a gesture of invitation. Lu Li walked in strides. The decoration inside was elegant. Candles were swaying and the fragrance of Buddhist incense lingered in the air, making people feel relaxed and happy. Apart from the 2 maids, there was no one else. Lu Li was surprised. Was Zhang Ryu going to use her beauty to seduce him? If he didn't agree to the exchange, was she going to sacrifice her body? Young master, please forgive me for inviting you here so abruptly. Zhang Ryu invited Lu Li to take a seat. After she asked the maids to serve tea, she said with a guilty expression, "Just now, I bought the fairy grass that young Master Lu wanted at a high price at the auction. I had no other choice. I apologize to you now." Not really. Lu Li didn't drink any tea. He was not familiar with Zhang Ryu. He didn't dare to drink her tea. He said lightly, "At the auction, the highest bidder wins. Lady Ryu, you are generous. I admit defeat." Lu Li didn't go straight to the point. Negotiation required skills. He wanted Zhang Ryu to beg him so that he could get a better price. "Young Master Lu, you are famous in the Sea of Storms. The fight at the Chaos Island has established your reputation as the most powerful warrior of the young generation at the Second Heaven. I don't go out often, but I admire you very much. Here, I propose a toast to you with tea instead of wine." Zhang Ryu picked up the teacup. Her beautiful eyes were filled with affection and her cheeks were blushing. She was as pretty as jade, and she said such nice words. Average people would be dizzy by now. Luli picked up the teacup and nodded. He clinked glasses with Zhang Ryu, but he only took a sip. He waved his hand and said, "Lady Ryu, don't flatter me. This is not a joke. I don't deserve to be called the most powerful warrior of the young generation at the Second Heaven. And this isn't glory, it's trouble. Young Master Lu, if you don't deserve it, then who in the world can?" What surprised Lu Li was that Zhang Ryu didn't go straight to the point. Instead, she kept flattering him and talking about all kinds of things. She didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Lu Li was getting impatient. He put it bluntly, "Lady Ryu, you didn't invite me here just to talk about this, did you? If there is nothing else, then I will go back now. Then let's get down to business." Zhang Ryu's expression became solemn. She sat up straight and said, "Young Master Lu, I am now formally inviting you to join us on behalf of the Zhang family. The terms of the Zhang family are a position of patriarch, the best resources, and me." Chapter 21-21. A position of patriarch was nothing. With Lu Li's abilities, he could get top-level resources at any force. The most important thing was Zhang Ryu, the #1 young lady of the Zhang family, a warrior at the later stage of the Third Tribulation, with a powerful soul. Her comprehensive abilities might be equal to those at the peak of the Third Tribulation. As long as Lu Li agreed, he would be the son-in-law of the Zhang family. Not only would he have a high-status, top-level resources, but also the most beautiful lady of the Second Heaven. It would be understandable if they were in love with each other. Zhang Ryu sounded like she had turned herself into an object. As long as Lu Li made the same deal, she would become a treasure and be given to Lu Li directly. The most powerful force of the Second Heaven, even Lin, said that the comprehensive abilities of the Omen Island were not as good as the Zhang family. Many people were on their knees begging to join the Zhang family. Now, the Zhang family had opened the door to Lu Li and offered him generous terms. They even gave him the best young lady of the Zhang family. If it were someone else, even Qin, they would be tempted. Lu Li, however, was not the case. Not only was he not tempted, but the first thing that came to his mind was surprise. Poaching from the devil? According to the rules of the Omen Island, people could come and go freely. If they wanted to leave, they only needed to state that they were leaving the Omen Island. But how could Lu Li do this? He was indebted to the devil, and he had promised her to go to the third heaven to get the ancient scriptures for her. The Lu family had settled down at the Cloud Mountain, so it was impossible for him to leave. Also, he was doing well at the Omen Island. How could he leave? Wasn't the Zhang family afraid of offending the devil? Wasn't the devil going to destroy the Zhang family out of anger? Nobody in the second heaven dared to offend the devil. The Zhang family was very bold. Lu Li squinted, but said nothing. Zhang Ryu's cheeks blushed, which made her look even more beautiful. She lowered her head, revealing her swan-like neck. Then she summoned up her courage, looked at Lu Li with affection, and said, "Young Master Lu, I have admired you for a long time. Ruyin's father is the current family master of the Zhang family. If you can join the Zhang family, the entire Zhang family will be your strongest support. Also, our family has a good relationship with a force in the third heaven. Young Master, you can even go there in the future." There were many beauties, and they were affectionate. They even described a scene of a grand plan. If it was someone else, they would have agreed immediately. Lu Li squinted even more. He was more confused. He was a good candidate to be trained, but he didn't deserve the Zhang family's love. He knew this. The Zhang clan was a big family with a lot of descendants. Geniuses came forth in large numbers. For example, Zhang Sun Wuk and Zhang Sun Ryu were both top-notch geniuses. If they didn't nurture their own children, why would they spend so much money to recruit an outsider like him? There must be a reason behind this abnormality. But for a moment, Lu Li could not figure out where the devil was coming from. The incense was getting stronger. Lu Li's eyebrows were knitted tightly together. There were many things he could not figure out. After a while, he decided not to think about it anymore. Since he wasn't prepared to seek shelter from the Zhang Sun clan, and he wasn't prepared to embrace this woman who was even more beautiful than a flower, it was better to reject her earlier. This way, he could go back and have a good sleep. Of course, it would be better if he could talk about the fairy grasses and get his hands on them. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Lu Li opened his mouth and came straight to the point. 1 black tortoise fruit for the 3 fairy grasses you have. There was only one sentence. There was nothing else, but it represented Lu Li's intention. Lu Li rejected the Zhang Sun family's solicitation. He only wanted the fairy grasses. If he couldn't get them, then there was nothing to talk about. Buzzing, the ring on Zhang Sun Ryu's hand glowed. A jade box appeared. She pushed it over and said, "It's just the fairy grasses." The Zhang Sun family has some of this kind of medicine for body refinement. As for the black tortoise fruit, is rare in the 2nd heaven, but not in the 3rd heaven. Young Master Lu, if you want the fairy grasses, I will give it to you. There is a side chamber with a bed in it. Young Master, do you want to go there and have a rest for the night? Zhang Sun Ryu's face was getting redder and redder. Her words were getting more and more obvious. Her honey trap was as pure as fire. Was it because she used to do it often, or was she really in love with Lu Li? I am sorry. Eventually, Lu Li pushed the fairy grasses over. Since the Zhang Sun family didn't want to trade, then there was no point in him staying here. He stood up and was ready to leave. However, the moment he stood up, he suddenly felt weak in his legs. He sat down on the chair. Swish, swish, swish. Lu Li's face turned pale. He finally understood where the devil was. He looked at Zhang Sun Ryu in disbelief and blurted out, "Lady Ryu, you have guts." Zhang Sun Ryu was not only gutsy, but also shockingly so. She wanted to keep him here? In the time for just a couple of incense sticks to burn, Lu Li was poisoned by a strange poison. He couldn't use his divine energy at all. He felt weak all over, and his physical strength was greatly reduced. If he hadn't stood up, he wouldn't have felt it at all. He had thought that Zhang Sun Ryu had called him over to trade for the fairy grasses. Later on, he realized he was wrong. Now, he realized he was wrong again. Zhang Sun Ryu wanted to keep him here, to kill him. This was the Heaven Music City, a place where violence could not be used. Otherwise, the Palace of Heaven Music would be completely offended. Also, the devil was in the limelight at the moment. Nobody dared to provoke him. How dare the Zhang Sun family make a move against him? He had been careless. Lu Li sighed to himself. Underestimating the enemy was fatal. The most powerful force in the 2nd heaven was not afraid of the Palace of Heaven Music. They might also want to challenge the authority of the devil and confront him face to face. Ha. Zhang Sun Ryu's expressions didn't change. She was still blushing and shy. She looked up to Lu Li affectionately and said, "Young Master Lu, if you want to rest in a room next door, I will still go and serve you. After tonight, young Master Lu will be my husband. From now on, you will have a meteoric rise." Lu Li put on a cold smile and asked back, "If I don't spend the night with Lady Ryu, I won't be able to walk out of this castle, right?" Zhang Sun Ryu sighed. She looked outside and said, "I don't want this to happen. There are many beautiful things in life. Young Master Lu, you must cherish them." I don't get it. Now that they were ready to shed all pretense of cordiality, Lu Li had nothing to worry about. He asked, "I have no quarrel with the Zhang Sun family. Why are you doing this? Is it really worth it to bring so much trouble to the Zhang Sun family for such an insignificant person like me?" "Yes." Zhang Sun Ryu turned around, looked at Lu Li, and said seriously, "Truth be told, there's a progenitor of our family who is proficient in divination. He knows that young Master Lu is a man with destiny. He said that if we cannot have young Master Lu, then destroy him." Lu Li was speechless. For such a reason, The Zhangsun family was making such a big fuss? He sneered and said, I don't think Lady Zhangsun alone is enough to destroy me. Ask the others to come out. Of course. Zhangsun Ryu nodded and said calmly, in order to destroy young Master Lu, we have prepared 10 people. Young Master Lu, don't worry. They are all under 1,000 years old. They will not violate the rules set by the devil. Whoosh, whoosh. Chapter 21-22. The 10 young men didn't look old, but some of them must be at least hundreds of years old. All of them were at the middle stage of the third tribulation. If they had powerful secret skills or treasures, they could be at the peak of the third tribulation. Luli was more solemn than ever. He was confident of his abilities, but he wasn't so arrogant that he would fight 10 powerful warriors at once. His divine energy was sealed, and he couldn't use the divine iron. The only thing he could use was the primordial energy. But could the primordial energy kill 10 powerful warriors? Clearly, it would be difficult. After some thoughts, Luli waved his hand and said, Ryu, ask them to leave. I think we can have an in-depth talk. Zhangsun Ryu smiled. She hesitated for the time for one breath and then waved her hand. The 10 left at once. She said shyly, Young Master Lu, have you thought it through? Once you join the Zhangsun family, you cannot change your family for the rest of your life. You have been poisoned. You must take the special pellets of the Zhangsun family every once in a while. Otherwise, not only will your divine energy be sealed, but you will also die from the poison. I have thought it through. Luli made up his mind. He stood up and said, It is late. Lady Ryu, let's go and get some rest. With that said, Luli strode to the side chamber. Zhangsun Ryu hesitated for a bit. After a while, she followed Luli in. The side chamber was beautifully decorated. There was also a pond filled with petals. There was a bed next to the pond. The pink gauze curtains made the room even more enchanting. Luli walked in naturally and then directly into the bath. He took off all his clothes and started to scrub in the bath. When Zhangsun Ryu came in, she happened to see Luli's bare back. Shrewd as she was so shy that she didn't know how to face others. She turned around and sat on the edge of the bed. Her eyes flickered as she wondered if Luli had really surrendered. The Zhangsun family had investigated Luli thoroughly. Luli was arrogant and unruly. How could he surrender so easily? Also, he looked so relaxed. Was there something wrong? Ryu, I'm almost done. Come take a bath. A voice rang out, pulling Zhangsun Ryu back from her thoughts. A trace of anger flashed in her eyes, but she didn't get up. Instead, she asked again, Young Master Lu, are you sincere? What are you talking about? Luli wrapped himself in his bathrobe and swaggered out. He said in a serious tone, The situation is stronger than me. I haven't lived long enough. Besides, wasn't it the same to be a slave of the great demon king and a son-in-law of the Zhangsun clan? What's more, Ryu is so sentimental and so moving. I'm not Lu Xiaohui. How can I not be moved? Lu Li's explanation was reasonable, but Zhangsun Ryu still found it hard to believe. After all, Lu Li's previous actions were not like someone who would give in easily. But what could she do in this situation? She waited for Lu Li to walk to the bed before she jumped into the bath. She pulled up the straps and revealed her perfect body. Her face was full of shyness. Her body was trembling. She sank into the water. Her hands kept scrubbing, but her psychic power was locked on Lu Li. If Lu Li made any strange moves, or if something was wrong, she would kill Lu Li at once. Lu Li didn't do anything. He lay on the bed and looked at her. His eyes were full of lust. Zhangsun Ryu was relieved, but she also felt it was shameless. How could the Zhangsun family spend so much to win over such a lecherous person? Was her sacrifice really worth it? Zhangsun Ryu walked out in her bathrobe after she dawdled in the water for an hour. A beauty coming out of the bath was a touching scene. After the bath, Zhangsun Ryu's skin was as smooth as jade, and there was a hint of redness on it. Any man would go crazy if he saw this. Zhangsun Ryu walked towards the bed step by step with her eyes closed. She was trembling out of nervousness, and her breaths were short. However, Zhangsun Ryu was on guard. Lu Li had many tricks up his sleeve. She didn't want to be tricked by him. Gulp, gulp. Lu Li's throat moved. He swallowed his saliva, and his breaths were short as well. He moved to the side, patted the bed, and said, Ryu, after tonight, you will be my wife. I will treat you well. Young Master Lu, I hope you're not lying to me. Zhang Sun Ryu sat on the edge of the bed with her teeth clenched. She was trembling even more. Even though she had received a lot of training at the family, and she had accepted what was happening today, she was still a virgin. It was inevitable that she would be nervous in a situation like this. Lu Li reached over and put his arms around her shoulders. Zhang Sun Ryu was even more nervous and on guard. If Lu Li dared to make a move, she would launch a thunderous attack that would make him die without a burial place. Lu Li didn't do anything rash. He hugged Zhang Sun Ryu from behind. They were both wearing bathrobes, but they were not thick. Both of them could feel it, especially Lu Li, who could feel it. Don't worry. Lu Li turned Zhang Sun Ryu's face around and kissed her on the cheek. He said softly, one day as husband and wife means endless devotion. How do I, Lu Li, treat my woman? Didn't you find out? After tonight, you will be my woman, and I will be a member of the Zhang Sun family. From now on, I will serve the Zhang Sun family wholeheartedly. Zhang Sun Ryu suddenly felt a hand reaching in and grabbing the part of her that wasn't touched before. She felt weak, as if she was electrified. Alas, she sighed to herself. Even though she didn't know why the family made this arrangement, this was her destiny as a lady of the Zhang Sun family. Since Lu Li had chosen to cooperate, then she could only be Lu Li's woman. After a while, Zhang Sun Ryu, who had closed her eyes and was ready to accept her fate, suddenly opened them. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. She just felt some strange energy fluctuations in Lu Li's body. Why didn't he enjoy this moment of pleasure? Why did he use some strange energy? Courting death. She opened her eyes and saw Lu Li's clear eyes. There was no trace of affection in them. She flew into a rage. Lu Li had seen her body and touched her everywhere. Yet, he had no intention of surrendering. How could she not be angry? Buzzing. Her eyes glowed. Soul energy surged out from her soul. The most powerful attack of the Zhang Sun family was soul attacks. At such a close distance, she believed it would be a piece of cake to kill Lu Li. Whoosh! 2 rays of light flashed by and entered Lu Li's eyes. The violent soul attack began to strike at Lu Li's soul. Zhang Sun Ryu believed that in the next second, Lu Li would become a dead body. Ruthlessly destroying a flower, I haven't done this for many years. Today I must do it. A sigh came out. Zhang Sun Ryu was shocked. Her powerful soul attack was ineffective on Lu Li. Swish! Lu Li's hand in Zhang Sun Ryu's abdomen suddenly released a strand of white energy. The energy entered her body in an instant. The source of life inside her disappeared quickly. No. Chapter 21-23. Bang! Lu Li slapped her with one hand, and Zhang Sun Ryu was smashed away. Her bathrobe was untied by Lu Li, so she was completely naked now. Lu Li was poisoned, and his physical strength was weakened. That being said, he still had his foundation. He smashed Zhang Sun Ryu into the wall. Because of the inhibition formation on the wall, she was bounced off, dead. The light in Zhang Sun Ryu's eyes dimmed down. She struggled to get up, but she didn't have the strength to do so. She could feel the source of life in her disappearing. She forced a smile. She had underestimated Lu Li. She had thought that with divine energy sealed and physical strength suppressed, Lu Li was a good-for-nothing because of her powerful soul attacks. Little did she know that Lu Li had the strange aura of primordial chaos in his body. He could kill her easily. As a matter of fact, Lu Li killed Yun Zhantian at the Chaos Island with the aura of primordial chaos. But Zhang Sun Ryu had always thought that Lu Li had some artifact or the Asmodean secretly helped him. Otherwise, how could Lu Li be a match for a warrior at the peak of the Third Tribulation? If he was so powerful, how could he end up in such a miserable state when he fought against Yin Kaiwe? A bumpkin from the divinity who had been at the second heaven for less than 10 years could defeat a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation? Zhangsun Ryu did not believe it. More importantly, the aura of primordial chaos could destroy the source of life. How could a warrior control it? Even if he could, it was not someone like Lu Li. Only now did she realize she was wrong. But it was too late. In a fight between powerful warriors, one mistake could be fatal. Boom! The entire castle glowed. Zhangsun Ryu's shout seemed to contain some soul energy. Everyone outside heard it. They began to attack the inhibition formation of the castle. Boom, boom, boom. The 10 people attacked the inhibition formation, causing a loud noise. Half of the castle was alarmed. Many people checked with psychic power. None of them took action after they realized it was the Zhangsun family. Violence was forbidden in the castle, but the rule was only for the average people, not for the Zhangsun family, the most powerful force in the second heaven. Boom! The inhibition formation of the castle was not strong. Soon it was broken. Then a ray of white light flew out from the castle. It had wings on its back, and it was wearing a bathrobe, which was quite strange. Someone from the Heavenly Sound Palace tried to assassinate me in the city. Aren't you going to do something about it? A deep roar rang out. This roar was extremely loud and reverberated throughout the entire city. Many experts in the city had their divine wills locked onto this place. When this person rushed out, countless people's expressions changed drastically. Zhangsun family, how dare you to assassinate Lu Li? An even more furious roar rang out from one of the manors. Gan Lin and the 2 elders flew up furiously. At the same time, many experts flew out from the castles in the city. An old man roared, "People of the Zhangsun clan, please stay your hand. Otherwise, we will have no choice but to offend you." Wow, it was already midnight. The city was originally very quiet, but at this moment, it was in an uproar. The Zhangsun family wanted to assassinate Lu Li or fight inside the city. There were many young masters and mistresses in the city tonight. In addition, Tianyin City had always been bustling. The city was bustling with activity. Whoosh, 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 but the 10 young men of the Zhangsun family didn't care. They all used their soul skills to attack Lu Li. The Zhangsun family's strongest skill was soul skills. Of the entire second heaven, nobody could claim to be the best in terms of soul attacks. When the 10 of them cracked open the inhibition formations in the castles, they found Zhangsun Ryu's body. They were enraged. Their priority was to kill Lu Li. 10 rays of light flew out and went into Lu Li's body. However, the 10 powerful soul attacks didn't cause any ripple, as if they were mud flowing into the sea. Whoosh! Lu Li's divine energy was suppressed, but his dragon wings were fast. He dashed toward the patriarchs of the Heavenly Sound Palace in a blur. Even if his divine energy and physical body were not affected, he would still be in grave danger if he were surrounded by the 10, let alone the fact that his divine energy was suppressed. He had already thought of a way out. There were at least several warriors at the peak of the third tribulation in the Tianyin city. As long as he could reach them, he could survive. Ryu! A sorrowful howl rang out, and Zhangsun Wuk flew out from a courtyard with 2 other people. They rushed into the ruins and picked up Zhangsun Ryu, who had already turned into a corpse. At first, nobody was paying attention to the inside of the ruins. But as soon as Zhangsun Wuk shouted, many people checked with psychic power. When they saw that Zhangsun Ryu was naked and there was no sign of life, the city was in an uproar again. Many young masters were stunned. Zhangsun Ryu's body was perfect. Her breasts, her waist, and her skin was as smooth as jade. It was such a shame that such a beauty was dead. Which bastard dared to lay his hands on such a beauty? Everyone, listen up. Zhangsun Wuk took out a robe and covered Zhangsun Ryu's body. Then he shouted in rage, "Kill Lu Li at all costs." Kill Lu Li? People in the city finally understood. So, Zhangsun Ryu was killed by Lu Li, the bastard. When they checked with psychic power, they saw Lu Li in a bathrobe. Then, they remembered that Lu Li flew out from the castle. Many people imagined what had happened. Zhang Sun Ruyu and Lu Li were having fun. Then, for some unknown reason, Lu Li even killed Zhang Sun Ruyu. Bastard. He was so heartless. Just a moment ago, they were having fun. Now, he turned his back on them. She was such a delicate girl. He couldn't wait to love her. How could he kill her? Lu Li flew over and dashed toward the powerful warriors of the Palace of Heavenly Music. The powerful warriors of the Palace of Heavenly Music were confused. Zhang Sun Ruyu was dead. The Zhang Sun family must be enraged. Now, Zhang Sun Wuk was in a rage. Which side should they help? To help Lu Li would be to offend the Zhang Sun family. To help the Zhang Sun family would be to offend the demon. They were in a dilemma. Whoosh, 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 the 10 young men chased after Lu Li. The 2 old men, next to Zhang Sun Wuk, took actions as well. They flew over in a frenzy. But just as they were in the sky, Zhang Sun Wuk remembered something. He said, "Patriarchs, don't do anything. We can handle this." Zhang Sun Wuk was enraged to the extreme, but he did not lose his mind. It was okay to fight in the Heavenly Music City, but there would be more troubles if they violated the demon's rules. There were 10 top young men of the Zhang Sun family here. How could they not kill Lu Li? Zhang Sun Wuk noticed that there was no fluctuation of divine energy in Lu Li's body. He must have been poisoned. The 11 of them were enough to deal with one poison man. Bang! Gan Lin brought along 2 elders and rushed over to obstruct the people from the Zhang Sun clan. However, these 2 elders' battle prowess was about the same as Elder He. They were easily sent flying by the 2 young men's soul attacks and 2 palm strikes. Bang! Soon, Gan Lin was smashed away as well. Gan Lin was good, but he was not as good as the 10 young men carefully trained by the Zhang Sun family. The 10 of them chased after Lu Li. Seeing that Lu Li was behind the patriarch of the Palace of Heavenly Music, Zhang Sun Wuk, who was chasing after Lu Li, shouted angrily, "Move away, people of the Palace of Heavenly Music. This is between us and Lu Li. Anyone who stands in our way will be the enemy of the Zhang Sun family." The patriarchs of the Palace of Heavenly Music looked at each other. Eventually, they made up their minds and stepped to the side. They could not afford to offend either the Zhang Sun family or the Omen Island. Chapter 21-24. When Zhang Sun Ruyu called in the 10 powerful young warriors after he was poisoned, Lu Li had thought of many ways to escape. The best one was to use the powerful warriors of the Palace of Heaven Music to suppress the 10 young warriors. However, he had underestimated the influence of the Zhang Sun family. Before the devil became the master of the second heaven, the Zhang Sun family had always been the most powerful force in the eyes of many warriors of the second heaven. The Zhang Sun family was not to be messed with. For millions of years, the 36 forces had been changing, but the Zhang Sun family had always been the most powerful one. There were some forces that wanted to challenge the authority of the Zhang Sun family, but they were all wiped out in the end. The Palace of Heaven Music didn't fight for hegemony. They were rich and powerful, but they were not arrogant enough to challenge the Zhang Sun family, especially when Zhang Sun Ruyu was dead. If she were still alive, they could try to persuade her. But the death of a young lady of the Zhang Sun family was a serious matter. How could they help Lu Li? **T. Lu Li was troubled. If he could use divine energy, he could go as fast as he could. These warriors wouldn't be able to catch up with him. The only thing he could be happy about was that the most powerful means of the Zhang Sun family was soul attacks. He had dragon soul, so the soul attacks could not hurt him. I have to fight to the death. He could not run away with dragon wings alone. Zhang Sun Wuk and the other 3 warriors were fast. They were faster than him. Also, he was in the city. If he ran out, who knew if the 2 old men of the Zhang Sun family would make a move? Under the watchful eyes of everyone in the city, Zhang Sun Wuk wouldn't send the 2 old men. That would be Lu Li's chance. Buy some time. Lu Li looked at Gan Lin, who understood at once. Gan Lin crushed a token in his hand to inform the axe demon. Lu Li turned around and ran to a crowd in the distance. There were several young masters and young ladies gathered together. They were all from the top forces of the second heaven. Spread out. Seeing that Lu Li was coming back, those people cried to themselves. The Zhangsun family had lost their minds. Wasn't Lu Li trying to drag them to death with him by coming to them? The patriarchs of the families dispersed with their young masters and young ladies. Unexpectedly, Lu Li stuck to them. The young ladies of the two families were so angry that they almost spat out blood. Whoosh, whoosh, the 10 young men and Zhangsun Wuk kept releasing soul attacks. They didn't believe that Lu Li could be completely immune to soul attacks. One had to know that even ordinary peak third tribulation experts would be afraid of their soul attacks. One of the young ladies was accidentally hit and let out a blood-curdling screech. She held her head and rolled in the air. Her clothes were also in a mess, revealing her naked body, which was a feast for the eyes of countless men in the city. Zhangsun family's young masters, don't attack my family's young miss. The patriarch of the young lady's family was on the verge of tears. He carried his young lady and rushed down. Seeing that Lu Li was going to follow him, the patriarch almost knelt down. He said in a sobbing tone, "Young Master Lu, we have not offended you. Our young lady's soul is hurt. Please let her go." All right. Lu Li didn't want to go too far since the old man was so humble. He rotated his dragon wings and flew toward the patriarch of the Palace of Heaven Music. At the same time, he took out some daggers and threw them back. He shouted, "Hidden weapons!" Many people in the city rolled their eyes. What kind of hidden weapons were those when Lu Li threw out some daggers? Even if the daggers were 10 times faster, what could they do? Not to mention that they didn't have much strength. Bang! The several young men chasing after Lu Li slapped away the hidden weapons with one hand. Then one of them took out a saber and hacked at Lu Li's back. The saber glowed as it caught up with Lu Li and hacked at his back. Bang! Lu Li was smashed away. His dragon wings were almost torn apart. Luckily, he dodged fast enough to miss his wings. That being said, his physical body was strong. The ray of light only scratched his skin. Lu Li sped up and reached the patriarch of the Palace of Heaven Music at once. At the same time, he took out more than a dozen weapons and threw them over. He shouted, "Hidden weapons!" The more than a dozen weapons were smashed away. Not only warriors in the city, but also warriors of the Zhangsun family were speechless. Was Lu Li insulting their intelligence? The dozen weapons he threw out could be called hidden weapons? Could they break their defense? Boom! Zhangsun Wuk took out a sword and stabbed at Lu Li. This time, Lu Li was wounded. In order to keep his dragon wings from exploding, Lu Li had to use one hand to block. That hand was badly mutilated. The injury was neither serious nor light. Stop using soul attacks. Use fundamental principles and skills. Zhangsun Wuk shouted. There were too many warriors in the city, and they didn't want to implicate the innocent. Therefore, they resorted to soul attacks. However, soul attacks were ineffective against Lu Li. They had to use fundamental principles and skills. They were fast, and there were many of them. Unfortunately, there were too many people in the city. Lu Li had been sneaking into the crowd, which hindered them. Otherwise, they would have caught up with Lu Li a long time ago. At the moment, Zhangsun Wuji couldn't care less. So what if there were casualties in the city? So what if they offended the Palace of Heaven Music completely? Would they dare to make trouble for the Zhangsun family? So what if they did? Hidden weapons. On the other side, Lu Li went around in a circle and threw out more than a dozen weapons. There were daggers, short swords, strange hooks, iron rods, and so on. Those were all low-level weapons. They couldn't kill anyone even if they were swung, let alone thrown at Lu Li. Zhangsun Wuk and the other 10 didn't mind. They thought they could kill Lu Li easily if they could avoid affecting people nearby. Zhangsun Wuk thought about it and shouted, "People in the city, listen up. Get out of the city at once. The Zhangsun family will make up for what is destroyed. Stay in the city and live or die." Whoosh, over a dozen weapons flew over, but Zhangsun Wuk didn't even look at them. He casually waved his hand, and a weapon that was flying over was knocked away by him. However, in the next second, he suddenly felt a throbbing in his soul, and he felt a fatal crisis. He used psychic power to check and found a bug crawling on the back of his right hand. The bug bit him and got into his body in a blink. His expression changed drastically. In a split second, he did something that shocked everyone in the city. He swung his sword with his other hand and chopped off his entire right hand. Something is wrong. At the same time, the other 10 were also taken aback. When they smashed away the weapons, hundreds of bugs flew out from the weapons and entered their bodies. Luli had used a simple trick to trick the Zhang family warriors. Chapter 21-25. Had Zhang Wuck and the Zhang family lost their minds? Just as many people in the city were preparing to evacuate, they saw a strange scene. Zhang Wuck had actually chopped off his own hand. 3 of the remaining people tumbled in midair, while 7 of them immediately flew down and sat cross-legged on the ground, motionless. A few of them were still shivering, and cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. What was going on? A moment ago, the 11 of them were chasing after Luli. How come the tables were turned? Luli didn't do anything. Had they lost their minds? One of the 3 tumbling in midair cried out in pain. He smashed into a castle on the ground. After he smashed the castle, he rushed up again. Then, he turned into a skeleton in a speed visible to the naked eye. The other one in midair could not stand it any longer. Soon, he turned into a skeleton and fell to the ground. Finally, they found a culprit with psychic power. There were many insects. They were dark, and their fangs were dark as well. They were gnawing on the 2 young men's bones. Crack, crack, the sound of bones being gnawed was not loud. But to people's ears, it sounded like demons were grinding their teeth. Everyone in the city felt their blood run cold. Hidden weapons. Someone came to his senses and shouted in surprise. Many turned to Luli with fear in their eyes. Just now, there were insects hidden in the hidden weapons. Luli released some random attacks, and the tables were turned. Whoosh, King of Venomous Worms flew back, and Luli put it away. Now that Zhang Wuck had noticed, it was pointless to let King of Venomous Worms attack. Maybe King of Venomous Worms would be killed by Zhang Wuck. However, the Void Worms didn't return. Instead, they flew towards the other young men. Wherever the Void Worms passed, the people nearby would immediately flee in terror. They were afraid that the worms would get close to them. At that time, they would be gnawed to the point that not even their bones would remain. Bang! The 3rd young man fell to the ground and turned into a skeleton. The other 7 could suppress the worms of the void. That being said, if the Zhang family didn't do anything, they would end up as skeletons as well. Good. Luli was satisfied. The worms of the void were much stronger after the evolution. The 10 warriors were at the later stage of the 3rd calamity, elites trained by the Zhang family. The fact that the worms of the void could kill 3 of them in an instant was proof that the worms of the void were powerful. Watch my hidden weapon. Seeing that Zhang Wuck was about to come over again, Luli threw out a dagger. How could Zhang Wuck block it? He had already lost an arm, so he didn't want to lose another one. Elders, hurry up and protect them. Zhang Wuck shouted. 3 people had already died, and he didn't want the remaining 7 to die. These 10 people were the top geniuses of the Zhang clan. If all of them died, he wouldn't know how to face his father and the elders of the clan. Watch my hidden weapon. Seeing that the 2 old men were about to fly over, Luli threw out some weapons. At the same time, he threw out 7 weapons and aimed at the 7 men sitting with their legs crossed. Seeing the 7 weapons coming, the 7 were frightened. They could barely contain the worms of the void inside them. If Luli were to let out more worms, they would be in a worse state. One of them tried to dodge out of instinct, so he flew up, trying to avoid Luli's hidden weapon. However, as soon as he moved, the worms of the void inside him could no longer be contained. He cried out in pain in midair and rolled around. Once he could not contain the worms of the void, what awaited him would be death. Whoosh! Some of them used divine energy to knock away the weapons Luli threw. The weapons were knocked away easily, but hundreds of worms of the void flew out from the weapons, which shocked everyone. What? Zhang Wuck noticed a caterpillar flew out from one of the weapons. It was the one that attacked him. Shocked, Zhang Wuck shouted, "Zhang Tang, watch out." But it was too late. King of Venomous Worms flew over. This time, it flew to the back of the young man's head. king of venomous worms, bit open a hole and crawled in. That young man fell to the ground with a bang. Blood flowed out from his eyes, nose, mouth, and mouth. Soon, he breathed no more. Patriarchs! Zhang Sun Wuk made up his mind. He made up his mind and said, "Please take Lu Li down." The two patriarchs were going to the seven. They looked at each other with hesitation. If they were to attack Lu Li, they would be violating the rules of the Asmodean family. If the Asmodean family went to the Zhang Sun family, the Zhang Sun family would be in big trouble. "Do it!" Zhang Sun Wuk shouted. "I will take all the responsibility. This is an order." As soon as Zhang Sun Wuk finished his words, the two patriarchs were filled with killing intent. Even though they were patriarchs of a Zhang Sun family, their statuses were lower than Zhang Sun Wuk's. This time, the family master had told them to follow Zhang Sun Wuk's orders. The two patriarchs dashed toward Lu Li from the left and the right. How fast could two warriors at the peak of the third tribulation be? Lu Li could not dodge at all. Buzzing from Lu Li's sacred mountain, countless worms of the void flew out toward the two patriarchs. But how could the worms of the void stop the two patriarchs when they were exerting their full strength? One of the patriarchs took out a flag. The flag was unfurled, and thousands of worms of the void were smashed away. The other warrior dashed out from the worms of the void in a blur and arrived in front of Lu Li. Lu Li knew he could not dodge. He tried his best to mobilize the energy in his body and smashed at the patriarch. He was poisoned, and his physical strength was reduced. He could only exert half of his strength in this punch. That patriarch snorted. His hand glowed. Surges of divine energy gathered on his fist and then expanded. The divine energy landed on Lu Li's fist. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Li's fist was already injured. At this moment, it was completely broken. One of his hands was broken. Lu Li's physical body was strong, and yet his arm was broken in one move. His hand was shattered as well. It was not hard to imagine how powerful this patriarch was. "I still have a long way to go to the peak of the third tribulation." Lu Li sighed to himself. He was going to die here today. After he was taken down by the two patriarchs, Zhang Sun Wuk would kill him in person. Gan Lin had informed the Axe Demon. The Axe Demon must be teleporting over by now. That being said, there was still some distance between them and the Omen Island. It would take some time for the portal to be opened. Kill him. Zhang Sun Wuk didn't do it himself. Instead, he shouted, "Patriarch Che, kill him. I will take all the responsibility." The patriarch who injured Lu Li was hesitating. Zhang Sun Wuk would take all the responsibility? He was afraid that he would be the scapegoat if something went wrong. But since Zhang Sun Wuk had said so, the patriarch would have a hard time in the Zhang Sun family if he didn't carry out the order. Go to hell. Chapter 21-26. Boom! Another move. Lu Li was smashed away. This time, he didn't even have a pair of wings. His body was badly mutilated. A warrior at the peak of the third tribulation was horrifying. Lu Li was poisoned, and his physical defense was weakened. It was already surprising that he could survive the attack from a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation. Lu Li, Gan Lin flew over, trying to help, but he was smashed away by Zhang Sun Wuk. Gan Lin had no choice but to shout, "Old dogs of the Zhang Sun family, if you dare to kill Lu Li, our Lord will kill your entire family." Two warriors at the peak of the third tribulation were rushing toward Lu Li. One of them slowed down. Since the other one was the one doing the work, he might as well let him kill Lu Li. Patriarch Che, who had just made a move, wanted to kill Lu Li again. But he hesitated on hearing this. The Asmodean was too famous. Patriarch Che had his concerns. Zhang Sun Wuk, let's go to hell together. Lu Li, who was smashed into the ruins of castle, dashed out. He forced his wings to grow again and dashed toward Zhang Sun Wuk like an arrow. Patriarch Che, who was at the peak of the third tribulation, was taken aback. He flew over quickly and released divine energy. But he didn't use his full strength. He moved closer to Lu Li quickly. He wanted to take Lu Li down and let Zhang Sun Wuk do it. In this way, if the Asmodean came to him in the future, his punishment would be less severe. Whoosh! Lu Li was seriously injured and slowed down. Soon, the warrior at the peak of the third tribulation caught up with him. He smashed at Lu Li's back with one fist and reached for Lu Li's head with the other. Ha ha! Lu Li suddenly turned around and smiled at the warrior at the peak of the third tribulation. Because of the blood on his face, Lu Li's smile was quite strange. He spread his wings, and a white airstream appeared on his hand. He slapped at the warrior at the peak of the third tribulation. The warrior at the peak of the third tribulation trembled. He had a bad feeling, but Lu Li was too close. He flew over immediately. The warrior made up his mind to gather divine energy outside his fist and smashed at Lu Li. Whoosh! Several streaks of white airstream flew over and entered the warrior's body. At the same time, the surging energy of the warrior at the peak of the third tribulation landed on Lu Li. Boom! Lu Li was blown away again. This time it was worse. Half of his shoulder was exposed, and many bones were broken. Blood dyed the night sky red, like a blooming azalea. Not good! A trembling voice rang out, and fear appeared in the eyes of the peak of the third tribulation. His body swayed in the air, and then he fell down in a crooked manner, smashing a large hole in a castle. Old Che, what's wrong? The other peak third tribulation cultivator was startled and hurriedly flew down. When his divine sense locked onto Elder Che, his expression changed drastically, and he exclaimed, "Chaotic energy!" Countless people scanned Elder Che with their divine senses, and expressions of shock appeared on their faces. Elder Che's life force was gradually disappearing, and in the blink of an eye, he had become a corpse. His eyes were wide open, and he had died with a grievance. Chaos Chi. Many people remembered Yun Zhantian's death when they were in the City of Chaos. Looking at Patriarch Che's state of death, many people no longer had any doubt. Lu Li could control chaotic energy and use it to kill enemies. When Lu Li killed Yun Zhantian, many people still had some doubts. They thought it was the Asmodean who killed him in secret. Now, nobody dared to question this anymore. The fact that Lu Li could kill a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation had been verified. Whoosh! Lu Li flew out from the ruins again. He was badly injured, covered in blood, and it was a miserable sight. But nobody doubted his abilities anymore. Just now, he was in such a state, and yet he could kill a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation in one move. Lu Li released his dragon wings by force. He had done that for 3 times in a row, and his face was pale. He flew toward Zhang Sun Wuk again, his eyes filled with killing intent. Just now, he was creating a diversion. His target was Patriarch Che, but this time he really wanted to kill Zhang Sun Wuk. He had already killed Zhang Sun Ruyu. He didn't mind another Zhang Sun Wuk. For him, there was no force that he couldn't afford to offend. Others were trying to kill him. Should he just wait for death? Seeing Lu Li coming, Zhang Sun Wuk's expressions changed. He stepped back at once. Patriarch Che's death scared Zhang Sun Wuk. Lu Li could kill a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation. Killing Zhang Sun Wuk wouldn't be difficult. Whoosh! Another patriarch of the Zhang Sun family came quickly. He slapped Lu Li away from the distance. He dared not to let Lu Li kill Zhang Sun Wuk in front of him. Patriarch Lu, kill Lu Li! Zhang Sun Wuk shouted. Another 3 young men sitting on the ground died. Now, there were only 3 left. If things went badly, all of them might die. The Zhang Sun family had suffered a great loss today. How could he be satisfied without killing Lu Li? Patriarch Lu was hesitating. Just now, he didn't make the first move. He let Patriarch Che do it because he was worried about the Asmodean's revenge. Now that Patriarch Che had died in Lu Li's hands, Patriarch Lu was even more hesitant. What if Lu Li's dying counterattack could kill him as well? Buzzing, right at that moment, a space portal suddenly opened in midair, which made everyone in the city nervous. Who came at such a critical moment? Those that could open space portals were all powerful warriors of major families. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One powerful warrior after another flew out from the space portal. There were more than a dozen of them. All of them were warriors of the third tribulation, and 3 of them were at the peak of the third tribulation. Third uncle. Zhang Sun Wuk was overjoyed. He shouted, "Third uncle, Ruyu is killed by Lu Li. Patriarch Che and Zhang Suntang are all killed by Lu Li. Kill Lu Li and avenge Ruyu and the others." Ruyu, a middle-aged man in a splendid robe who looked like Zhang Sun Wuk, showed sorrow. He glanced over and soon his eyes were filled with killing intent. Finally, he looked at Lu Li and shouted coldly, "Good, good. How dare you kill so many warriors of the Zhang Sun family? Lu Li, you are bold. Men, do it. Remove all the bones in his body one by one." Whoosh! The more than a dozen warriors spread out and dashed toward Lu Li. Clearly, the middle-aged man in the splendid robe enjoyed a high status in the Zhang Sun family. Nobody dared to question his orders. Right at that moment, a cold snort came from above the sky. It was not loud, but it struck everyone in the city like a clap of thunder. Then the clouds and wind surged. In the dark sky, a ray of golden light suddenly came out. Amidst the astonished stares, a beautiful golden hand reached down from the sky. Hiss, hiss! Everyone looked at the golden palm, and their souls were trembling. Even the souls of the elders at the peak of the third tribulation of the heavenly music palace were trembling. They felt that this hand was like the hand of a true god, capable of crushing everything. That beautiful big hand quickly grabbed down and instantly grabbed Zhang Sun Wuk's third uncle's body. Zhang Sun Wuk's third uncle was at the peak of the third tribulation realm. But after he was grabbed by that beautiful hand, his entire body turned into dust like a clay sculpture. Not even his bones remained. Chapter 21-27. Greetings, Lord. Gan Lin and the 2 old warriors of the third tribulation knelt down. The confused people in the city finally came back to their senses. To be able to release such a powerful golden hand and easily crush a peak third tribulation cultivator, only a great demon king could have such combat prowess. In terms of courage, there was no one else apart from the demon king that could crush a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation of the Zhang Sun family, let alone the demon king. Plop! Many low-level warriors knelt down. For one, they were scared, and for another, they were in awe and admiration. They didn't even have the chance to worship such a man. The beautiful hand was gone. The sky returned to calmness as if the hand had never been there. More than a dozen warriors of the Zhang Sun family were running toward Lu Li. They were not far away from him now, but none of them dared to move. Lu Li was right in front of them. They could kill him easily. The hand of the demon king was gone. But who dared to move? Third uncle. Zhang Sun Wuk shouted in sorrow. He didn't dare to say anything. Out of instinct, he wanted to fly over only to realize that his third uncle's body was gone. There was nothing but a mist of blood floating in the air. He was filled with regret and hatred. His third uncle was talking to a big family nearby. If Zhang Sun Wuk hadn't crushed the jade talisman to inform the family, his third uncle wouldn't have died. "Let's go." Zhang Sun Wuk made up his mind. He waved his hand and asked someone to take away the bodies of the 3 young men and Zhang Sun Ruyu. Zhang Sun Wuk was mad, but he did not lose his mind. If the demon king could do it once, he could do it again. If he were to attack again, everyone would probably die. Zhang Sun Wuk and the others left by teleportation formation. As soon as they left, the atmosphere in the city was not as depressing as before. But many people still felt it was hard to breathe. Some were trembling. Maybe it was because of nervousness or the excitement of seeing such a big fight. Alas, Lu Li climbed up from the ground and cupped his fist to the sky. He was not secretly happy that he had escaped death. Instead, he felt humiliated. His face was gloomy. He was not a kid anymore. On several occasions, he was in fatal danger and he needed the demon king to help him out. This made him feel ashamed and humiliated. He felt he had let down the demon king's love. "I'll go into seclusion after I return." Lu Li made up his mind. He needed to be more powerful. Otherwise, something like this might happen again. He couldn't rely on the great demon king to help him every time. Xiao. Gan Lin came with 2 old men. Lin took Lu Li away and rushed into a manor. Looking at Lu Li, who was covered in blood, Lin sighed and said, "Lu Li, I am sorry. We are not capable enough to let you suffer alone." Hee hee, it's none of your business. Lu Li forced a smile and shook his head. Then he closed his eyes and fell asleep. Things had calmed down, but the city was not. News of the incident spread to the second heaven at an extremely fast speed. The great Demon King and the Zhongsun clan were at odds. It would be hard for such a huge matter not to spread quickly. Lu Li had killed Zhongsun Ruyu. Warriors of the Zhongsun family were driven mad. They wanted to kill Lu Li. The young couldn't be killed, so the elders took action. In the end, Zhongsun family's battle home master Zhongsun Xie came, but he was killed by the great Demon King with a single palm strike. Who was right and who was wrong? How come Zhongsun Ruyu was naked when she died? Lu Li was wearing a bathrobe as well. Did he and Zhongsun Ruyu have an illicit relationship? How did the great Demon King come so quickly? Was it because she was nearby, or was it an attack she released from the Omen Island? Of course, people chose to believe the former explanation. The great Demon King couldn't have released a skill from the Omen Island to crush Zhongsun Xie. The Omen Island was hundreds of millions of miles away from the Heavenly Sound Island. Not even warriors of the fourth or fifth tribulation could do that. There were too many questions and too many topics to talk about. Therefore, the news spread quickly. The entire second heaven was in an uproar. Scouts from many forces swarmed toward the Sky-Hard Island where the Zhongsun family was at. They wanted to see if the Zhongsun family would take action. The most powerful warrior of the second heaven was challenging the most powerful force of the second heaven. If an all-out war were to break out, no matter who won, the situation of the entire second heaven would be affected. Even though the Zhongsun family hadn't taken action yet, the great Demon King's prestige was growing. The Zhongsun family had a backer at the third heaven. The great Demon King had already offended Phoenix Queen. How could she offend the Zhongsun family as well? Did she really think that the great forces of the third heaven would not dare to send people down to the lower realm? 3 days later, the family master of the Zhongsun family said in person, Lu Li had killed Zhongsun Ruyu and the others for no reason. He hoped that the Omen Island could give him an explanation. If there was no explanation in a month, the Zhongsun family would take actions to avenge Zhongsun Ruyu and the others. The announcement of the Zhongsun family didn't mention that the Asmodean Lord had killed Zhongsun Qi. It only mentioned that Lu Li had killed Zhongsun Ruyu and the others. The words were not too harsh, but they had expressed a certain attitude. The Zhongsun family hoped that the Asmodean Lord would hand over Lu Li and the matter would be over. If Lu Li was not handed over, the Zhongsun family would not hesitate to fight. Would the great Demon King hand over Lu Li? This was obviously impossible. Otherwise, the great Demon King wouldn't have killed Zhongsun Xie. Therefore, after the Zhongsun family sent out the announcement, the entire second heaven was immediately shaken. Were the Zhongsun clan and the great Demon King finally going to fight head-on? Was the Zhongsun family's old bastard going to come out of seclusion? Would the Zhongsun family ask powerful warriors of the third heaven to take action? The atmosphere of the entire second heaven was depressed. Recently, all the forces were restraining their people from going out and causing trouble. They could not afford to have any big conflicts during this time. Even some playboys were locked up for fear that they would go out and cause trouble. Lu Li was still at the Heaven Music City. The Palace of Heaven Music sent over many powerful warriors to protect him, for fear that something might happen to him. The master of the Palace of Heaven Music went to the Omen Island in person to apologize to the great Demon King. After all, it was the Zhongsun family that started a fight in the city, but the Palace of Heaven Music didn't do anything to protect Lu Li. This was their fault. The Demon King didn't meet with the master of the Palace of Heaven Music. Axe Demon did, but he didn't explain clearly what the great Demon King wanted. The master of the Palace of Heaven Music came back with uneasiness. The Axe Demon came over and picked up Lu Li, Lin, and the others who had recovered a little. What happened to Lu Li was not sent back to the Cloud Mountain. After Lu Li woke up, he stayed at the heavenly Asmodean city to tend to his wounds. He asked Axe Demon to go to the Cloud Mountain to block the news so that the Lu family wouldn't be worried. After half a month of rest, Lu Li's wounds had recovered a lot. That being said, the toxins in his body were still there. He still couldn't use his divine energy, and his physical strength was suppressed. Lu Li asked Axe Demon to take him to the Great Demon King. Lu Li knew about the announcement from the Zhongsun family. He wanted to ask the Great Demon King. If he couldn't handle it, he would go to the Zhongsun family by himself. Nobody can threaten me at the second heaven. Chapter 21-28. Is the Zhongsun family here for the Demon Lord? Lu Li had been thinking about this for days, but he still could not figure it out. Zhongsun Ruyu was trying to recruit him, and she was willing to sacrifice herself in order to do so. If she wanted to pick a fight with the Demon Lord, she could just mobilize powerful warriors to attack the Omen Island. Why did she have to go through so much trouble? Why did she have to sacrifice a young lady? Since he could not figure it out, Lu Li stopped thinking about it. Since the Demon Lord said that she could deal with the Zhongsun family, Lu Li stopped worrying about the outside world. The Demon Lord would not speak without thinking. She had so many followers at the Omen Island. She would not joke about this. Lu Li began to focus on detoxifying the poison. He must have smelled the incense. He could feel some strange energy in his body. The energy filled his body and suppressed the energy inside. There was more of this energy outside the elixir that sealed his divine energy. Since the Demon Lord told him to do it himself, then there must be a way. Lu Li cultivated and paid no attention to the outside world. He began to study the poison in his body, trying to find a way to turn it into energy for himself. The atmosphere outside was getting more and more serious. It had been 20 days, and the Demon Lord had not responded. It was a silent slap on the face of the Zhongsun family. The Zhongsun family did nothing either. Scouts from other forces noticed that the Omen Island was under martial law. None of the scouts from outside could get in, and those hiding on the island were asked to come out. It meant that the Zhongsun family was making preparations in secret. The most powerful force in the second heaven must take action since they had said so. Otherwise, they would lose their trust in the world and their prestige would be tarnished. Scouts outside the island noticed that the teleportation formations on the island were being activated. Many teleportation formations glowed. They must be long-distance teleportation formations. There seemed to be some fluctuations in space. Maybe many space gates were opened as the one-month deadline approached. The forces in the second heaven were getting more and more nervous. This battle had affected all the forces and families. The defeat of the Zhongsun family or the Omen Island would affect the entire situation of the second heaven. The Fu family of the Black Flame Palace of the Saint Origin Palace and the Black Flame Palace were itching for action. If the Demon Lord was defeated, their powerful warriors would rush to the Omen Island at once. Many forces that had grudges against the Heavenly Devil Island were also making preparations in secret. Soon, a month passed by. The Zhongsun family sent another approval. Since the Omen Island didn't give any response, the Zhongsun family decided to go to the Omen Island and kill Lu Li to avenge Zhongsun Ruyu and the others. The Zhongsun family had drawn their swords. Countless space gates opened, and the experts of the Zhongsun family were teleported over. They didn't go directly to the Demonic Island, but to the Raging Flame Island. Raging Flames Island had been taken over by a few medium-sized forces, and there were only a few Third Tribulation experts left. The Zhongsun family's experts were directly teleported over, and the people here didn't even dare to let out a fart. Not to mention that the Zhongsun family had so many experts, even a peak Third Tribulation expert could sweep through the entire Raging Flame Island. The experts of the Zhongsun family were continuously teleported over. Almost all of them had come out. The army had mobilized more than 100,000 people, and all of them were Second Tribulation warriors. The number of Third Tribulation warriors had reached more than 200. Once again, the Zhongsun family demonstrated their strength as the most powerful force in the second heaven. 11 warriors at the peak of the third tribulation had come. The patriarch of the Zhang family and the family patriarch of the Zhang family, Zhang Tinya, had come in person. Many scouts were sent to the raging Flame Island. Every force had sent over scouts. This fight was so important that every force must know the result as soon as possible. Many forces not only sent scouts, but their patriarchs and family patriarchs were here as well. But they didn't come here. Instead, they found places to hide in the distance so that they could learn the situation in time. The Omen Island was in an uproar. Many powerful warriors gathered at the Omen City to ask for permission to fight. Warriors of the Omen Island were confident because they had never been defeated when the Demon King led them to battle. This time, warriors of the Omen Island couldn't stand it when the Zhang family was at their doorstep. The Demon King didn't give any orders. He didn't intend to take the initiative. It was just that Axe Demon gave an order for all warriors above the second tribulation to gather at the Omen City, ready to fight at any time. Axe Demon was the Demon King's most powerful warrior. His order represented the Demon King. At that moment, countless martial artists from the entire Heavenly Devil Island gathered towards Heavenly Devil City. Those people weren't afraid at all. Instead, they were all extremely excited. Being able to fight alongside the great Demon King was the glory of all the Heavenly Devil Islanders. 3 days later, the people of the Zhang family moved out. More than 200 Third Tribulation powerhouses led an army of more than 100,000 to officially attack the Heavenly Devil Island. More than 100,000 people rode on thousands of warships. They covered the sky, and the aura released by the powerhouses caused the surrounding space to become especially heavy and oppressive. After the people of the Zhang family entered the Heavenly Devil Island, the great Demon King still didn't come out. He just sent an order. The martial artists of the Zhang family were to scatter along the way. Don't fight with the people of the Zhang family, and let the Zhang family's army enter the Heavenly Devil City. After the order was passed down, the Zhang family's army didn't encounter any attacks along the way. The Zhang family's family head didn't let the army spread out to attack. Instead, he led the army straight to Heavenly Devil City. If they didn't kill the great Demon King, even if they conquered the entire Heavenly Devil Island, it would be meaningless. As long as they killed the great Demon King, the entire Heavenly Devil Island would be theirs. Countless family scouts followed the Zhang family's army in. They spread the news of the island, and many great powers became bewildered. Why didn't the great Demon King take the initiative to attack? Could it be that he had made some arrangements in Heavenly Devil City? Did he want to borrow the power of the divine inscriptions and the geographical advantage to obstruct the Zhang family's army? Many experts wanted to enter the Heavenly Devil Island to watch the battle, but when they thought of the great Demon King's rules, if they entered and the Zhang family was defeated, they would most probably be trapped inside, unable to come out. 2 days later, the Zhang family's army arrived at Heavenly Devil City. The great Demon King finally appeared. He was clad in black battle armor and wore a Devil King mask, wielding a Devil King spear in his hand. "My lord is mighty, my lord is mighty." The hundreds of thousands of soldiers in the city immediately knelt down and roared. Their faces were filled with worship. They believed that as long as they followed this woman, they would be able to tear apart any enemies that stood in their way. Attack, kill all the invaders this time around. The great Demon King brandished his long spear and took the lead to rush out. Like a sharp sword, he pierced into the midst of the experts of the Zhang family. The hundreds of thousands of soldiers and experts behind him immediately rushed out as a chaotic battle began. "Great Demon King, let's go up and fight. Let the children play below." An aged voice resounded. Following that, an old man with a crooked back flew out from a warship. He directly flew up to the sky, and a berserk aura spread out from his body, making Axe Demon and the others below feel oppressed. She really is a fourth tribulation heaven deity. Axe Demon, Blade Demon, and the others looked at each other, but they didn't care too much. If the Zhongsun family only had one fourth tribulation heaven deity, then the hundreds of thousands of people who came today would have to stay on heavenly Devil Island. Swish! The great demon king flew up. She didn't look at the old man from the Zhongsun family, but at the sky in the north instead. Her emotionless voice resounded. Since the three of you came from the triple heavens, there's no need to hide. Come, let this seat see how powerful the external help that the Zhongsun family invited is. Ah! Chapter 21-29. Three mysterious powerful warriors, three at the third realm of the world. The Zhongsun family was well aware of the devil's abilities. Therefore, they would not ask some average warriors from the third realm to come down and help. So, the three were fourth tribulation gods. Could the devil deal with three fourth tribulation gods and the old man of the Zhongsun family? Demon Axe and the others were worried. But what else could they do? They could not interfere in a fight of this level. Charge! Demon Axe, Demon Blade, Demon Arrow, and the others had to focus on the more than 100,000 warriors outside the city. Among the more than 100,000, there were more than 200 warriors at the third tribulation, while the Omen Island had less than 100. The difference in numbers was huge. Also, there was a difference in the number of warriors at the peak of the third tribulation. The Omen Island only had 5, while the Zhongsun family had 10. The Omen Island had the advantage in numbers. They had hundreds of thousands more, but the situation was not optimistic. Demon Axe and the others were not worried about the fight below. What they were worried about was the fight above. If the devil above won, then it would be a great victory no matter what happened below. If the devil above lost, then killing all the Zhongsun family warriors would be pointless. The Zhongsun family warriors had the same thought. Therefore, even though the fight was fierce, both sides were holding back. Before the outcome of the fight above was decided, there was no need for the warriors below to risk their lives. Even so, the casualty rate of the low-level warriors was high. The hundreds of thousands of warriors were gathered in the wilderness. The low-level warriors did not care about that. They fought with all their might. The low-level warriors of the Omen Island worshipped the Omen Island blindly, so they believed that they could win. The Zhongsun family was invading the Omen Island while the Omen Island was defending their home. Naturally, the low-level warriors would fight with all their might. On the other hand, the Zhongsun family all believed that Luli had killed Zhongsun Ryu and the devil had killed their patriarch too. The most powerful force had its pride. Their dignity could not be trampled on. They fought with all their might. Boom, boom, boom. There was a horrifying fluctuation in the sky. There was no Xian energy coming down, but the horrifying Qi and energy were spreading down, making those fighting below tremble with fear. Luli was still in closed-door cultivation. He had activated the inhibition formation. Since nobody was disturbing him, he had no idea what was going on outside. He didn't know that blood had flowed like rivers and bodies were piled up. There were many people standing on the walls of the Sky Demon City. These were all ordinary citizens. Their battle prowess was not enough, so they did not have the qualifications to enter the battlefield. Their faces were solemn as they looked at the sky and the battlefield in the distance from time to time. Although they also had fanatical faith in the great Demon King, they couldn't help but feel a little worried when the great Demon King fought 4 people alone. The casualties on the battlefield in front of them were getting more and more tragic. Many of the casualties were their relatives and clansmen. Seeing them injured or dead, many people's faces were filled with grief. Boom, boom, boom. The battle had been going on for a full hour, and the outcome of the battle had yet to be decided. The people of the Zhongsun family were slightly anxious. The 4 of them had fought for an hour, and there was still no winner. The great Demon King's combat power was so terrifying. Since he couldn't win in an hour, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to win at all. Xiao. Suddenly, a black shadow fell from the sky. All the experts present stopped fighting at this moment. Their divine senses swept towards the sky and locked onto the black shadow that was falling. Ah, ancestor! The experts of the Zhongsun family cried out in grief, but Axe Demon and the others were overjoyed. because the person who fell was the Zhang family's ancestor. Moreover, when they scanned with their divine senses, they found that the Zhang family's ancestor had lost half of his head. He had been killed. Boom! The Zhang family's ancestor's body fell heavily on the ground. Because the experts of the Zhang family were too shocked, none of them went to catch the body. They just let the ancestor fall on the ground and raise a cloud of dust. Countless people of the Zhang family gasped. Their faces were filled with grief and shock. The ancestor's chest bone was shattered, and half of his head was completely cut off. He died a horrible death. It was difficult to determine the winner in a battle between experts, where life and death could be decided in an instant. After fighting for an hour, the great demon king actually killed the Zhang family's ancestor. Most importantly, it was 1 against 4. 4 against 1. If the great demon king was going to use his killer move, the other 3 would definitely be able to help the block for a while or restrain the Zhang family's ancestor. If the great demon king could kill one, he could kill the second, the third. It's over. The family head of the Zhang family was terrified. He didn't have time to think about the ancestor's death. He was thinking about the survival of the entire Zhang family. If the 3 people on the top were all defeated or killed, the Zhang family would probably perish. Swish! Another sonic boom rang out from above. Following that, a badly mangled figure with an indistinguishable face fell to the ground. There was a bloody hole in the person's chest, and his head was blown off. No one knew who it was. The Lord is mighty. The Lord is invincible. The axe demon scanned with his mind and was instantly overjoyed. He waved his arm and shouted. Although he didn't know who this person was, he was sure it wasn't the great demon king, because this person was a man. The Lord is mighty. The Lord is invincible. All the people of the demonic island shouted. Their voices resounded through the 9 heavens, shaking many Zhang family's experts. Just when the Zhang family didn't know what to do, a furious roar came from the 9 heavens. How dare you kill my 4th brother? Do you know which family in the 3rd heaven we are from? Isn't it the Zhang family from the Moon Lake? The great demon king's cold and emotionless voice echoed. I don't care if you're acting tyrannically at the Moon Lake. You came to this plane to act tyrannically. Let alone the 3 of you. Even if your patriarch came, I would still dare to kill him. Boom! There was a loud explosion, and another figure flew down. This person didn't die and was smashed into the ground. However, he didn't rush up this time. Instead, he turned into a red light and flew into the distance. He roared with rage. Old 6, go. Great Demon King, right? You have guts. Our Zhang family will never let this matter go. Swish! A black light shone in the sky. Then a long spear pierced down from the 9 heavens and easily hit that person, blasting his head apart. The great Demon King's cold voice echoed. You came and you still want to leave? You think too much. Bang! That 3rd heaven expert's head exploded like fireworks, and his body was pierced into the ground. Another person died. 3rd brother. There was a sorrowful cry in the sky. However, after the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, there was no more movement. A body fell down quickly and smashed into the wilderness. His head was also blown up. He couldn't be more dead. The whole place was silent. Countless people of the Zhang family started to tremble. Many people's teeth were chattering, and their faces were pale. They were defeated. The great Demon King fought against 4 people and killed them easily. The Zhang family suffered a crushing defeat. Scatter and run. The master of the Zhang family reacted quickly. He yelled and flew over. He grabbed the body of the great ancestor of his family and ran away quickly. Swish, 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 10 spear shadows appeared in the 9 heavens. As fast as lightning, they hit 10 people at the peak of the 3rd calamity of the Zhang family. As expected, the bodies of the 10 people at the peak of the 3rd calamity of the Zhang family all exploded. They were killed instantly. Chapter 2130. Luli had been in closed-door cultivation for 3 months. He knew nothing about the outside world. He had been thinking about how to detoxify the poison. Finally, he had made great progress during the 3 months. He had successfully dissolved the poison in his body. The way to dissolve the poison was similar to controlling the primordial energy. Lu controlled the energy with a trace of Tao and then absorbed it into his 720 acupoints. As long as the energy entered his acupoints, it would become his own energy. Not only was it free of poison, it could also strengthen his body. The energy was overwhelming, just like the quintessence. After Lu had consumed all the energy in 3 months, he realized his body was stronger. Making sure that the strange energy was gone, Lu came out from cultivation. After he left, he found Ganlin and found out that an earth-shattering battle had taken place 3 months ago. "Why didn't you call me?" Lu asked in dissatisfaction after a moment of surprise. After all, the Zhangsun family was here for him. He felt ashamed that he didn't even come out to fight. "What do you need to do?" Ganlin pouted and said, "Your divine energy is sealed and your abilities are reduced. You can't do much even if you come out. Grandpa said that since our Lord didn't tell us to relocate, then he must be confident." "Okay," Lu sighed. At the end of the day, he was not powerful enough. It didn't matter if he was here or not. His desire for power was growing. He didn't want to be protected by the devil for the rest of his life. It was shameful for a man to need a woman's protection. Lu didn't ask more. Now that the matter had come to an end, it was pointless to ask more. What he needed to do now was to improve his abilities and then go to the third heaven for the devil to trade for the scriptures. He didn't like to owe people favors. The devil had done so much for him. Now, it was time for him to repay the favor. He stayed in the city for half a day before he returned to the Cloud Mountain. He bought some liquid of Earth Dragon from the Palace of Heaven Music, and he still had some quintessence left. He planned to consume all of them to improve his body. Also, he planned to cultivate divine energy and study fundamental principles to improve his abilities in all aspects. He shouldn't wander around before he reached the peak of the third heaven. The Hall of Black Flames could no longer hold its head up high. Nobody at the second heaven could threaten him. His family and friends had all come to the second heaven. He had nothing to worry about and could focus on cultivation. After returning to Heavenly Cloud Mountain, there was not much commotion. Because Elder Chun had sealed off all information, the people of the Lu clan did not know anything. They had been living in peace and cultivating. Lu Renhuang had gone to the first level of the Tower of Monsters, and he almost made it. Lu had a whole new level of respect for Lu Renhuang. However, when he thought about it, his father's talent was also extremely high. If not for the fact that he had to take care of the Lu clan in the past, he would have long become a god. Prajna and Bai Xiuxue both learned a fundamental principle at the Demon King Mountain, which pleased Lu. Everyone wanted to become stronger, and they were all pursuing greater strength. It was true that their combat abilities meant little to Lu. That being said, everyone had their own pursuits in life. Otherwise, with their long lives, they wouldn't just sit around and wait for death. Skycloud Mountain had many spirit herbs and all sorts of resources, enough for the Lu family to cultivate for many years. Lu asked Patriarch Chun to take care of these matters. He stayed with them for a while and then went into closed-door cultivation. Skycloud Mountain was very peaceful, and the outside world had been especially peaceful recently. During this time, no forces had declared war against each other. Everyone had been behaving themselves. Many leaders of major forces came to the Omen Island in person, asking to meet the Demon King. Some of them even shouted out slogans, asking the Demon King to proclaim herself as the ruler of the second heaven. Unfortunately, the Demon King did not receive anyone. She only asked the Axe Demon to tell them to go back to where they came from. Her attitude was still the same. The Omen Island would not fight for hegemony, and she would not get involved in the affairs of the second heaven. As long as they did not provoke the Omen Island, she would not care about the affairs of the second heaven. When the Demon King's words came out, the other forces were relieved. Many were afraid that the Demon King would unify the second heaven. By then, they would all lose their interests and become the vassal of the Omen Island. The Omen Island was particularly lively during this time. More and more people came to join the Omen Island. Some small forces even came to the Omen Island for shelter. Many warriors were asking to join the island army so that they could be the direct subordinates of the Demon King. The Demon King had become the uncrowned king of the second heaven. Who would dare to bully the Demon King when they were in the second heaven? Who would dare to disrespect her? Axe Demon and the others had become the target of enticement by the major forces. Many leaders came to visit the Demon King. Since they were not received, they had to build a good relationship with Axe Demon, Saber Demon, and Arrow Demon. Even Qin Zhan, Lady Qiong, and Lady Mu were sent by their families to visit Lu Li and build a good relationship with him. The three families had brought the body refinement pellets with them. They all knew what Lu Li needed the most. Lu Li's nickname of the Little Demon King was getting more and more famous in the second heaven. Even some people thought that Lu Li was the illegitimate son of the Demon King. Otherwise, why would the Demon King treat him so favorably when he had only joined the Omen Island for less than 10 years? For him, the Demon King did not hesitate to start a war with the Saint Origin Palace. Now, he even destroyed the Zhang Sun family. After Qin Zhan and the others went to visit Lu Li, many families realized that it was meaningless to build a good relationship with Axe Demon and the others. The most important thing was to build a good relationship with Lu Li. Axe Demon and the others were reasonable and well-behaved, but not Lu Li. Didn't he kill Zhang Sun Ruyu after he had sex with her? He is a completely unreasonable person. Therefore, many messengers came. Many of them were young masters and young ladies of different families. They came to visit Lu Li with the body refinement pellets. If they could build a good relationship, Lu Li would have to do it for Lu Li's sake the next time he had a conflict with them. Lu Li came out from cultivation several times. Since then, too many people had come to visit him. Lu Renhuang and Lu Zhengyang had to do it. Apart from a Black Flame Hall, the Fu family, and the Dragon race, Lu Li could accept the gifts from the other families. Many families sent over many body refinement pellets, which was a pleasant surprise for Lu Li. He didn't have to go looking for body refinement pellets for a while. Though the pellets they sent were not of high quality, they were in large quantities. He just needed to consume more. A year later, the Demon King did not make any moves. The forces at the second heaven were relieved. Finally, someone was thinking about the Sky Heart Island. A powerful independent cultivator had taken over the Sky Heart Island, but it was evident that he could not take it all by himself. Some forces were itching for action. Lu Li stopped cultivation today, not because he had reached a bottleneck. It was because he had received an invitation from the Qin family. Qin Zhan had been pursuing her for years. Today, he had come to fruition. In a month, he would marry Lady Qiong. Qin Zhan was one of the few friends Lu Li had at the second heaven. Lu Li must go. He arrived at the Asmodean city and found that Gan Lin had received an invitation as well. But when Gan Lin went to report, Axe Demon said that he wanted to go with him. Axe Demon received an invitation as well. Of course, he would not show up on such occasions. The Qin family was not that influential. Axe Demon must be here to protect Lu Li and Gan Lin. Lord Axe Demon, I don't think anyone at the second heaven dares to do anything to us now. I don't think we need to trouble you. Lu Li scratched his head in embarrassment. Axe Demon rolled his eyes and said, I am not going with you because I am afraid that you will be in trouble. I am afraid that you will make trouble. You are a troublemaker. If you make trouble again, I will not be able to answer to our Lord. Chapter 2131. What's the situation on Heaven Devil Island? I don't know. The scouts didn't send out any news. It's been a few days. Why is there no news? Are those scouts all dead? I just asked an elder of the Black Flame Hall. Their clan scouts didn't send out any news either. That's strange. It's been 5 days. Logically speaking, the outcome should have been decided, right? It's impossible that there is no news. There were many scouts outside Heaven Devil Island, and many elders of great clans were hiding in the nearby islands. The Black Flame Hall Master, Fu Clan Head, and Long Clan Head had all come personally. They brought their clan's martial experts, thinking that if the Zhang clan won, they would immediately follow and attack Heaven Devil Island. They would burn, kill, and plunder. Even if they didn't plunder any treasures, they could at least vent their anger. However, it had been 5 days since the Zhang clan's army entered, and there was no news. The scouts from their forces seemed to have all vanished from the face of the earth. No news came out. Hall Master Yen, on a small island, the Dragon Clan head, Fu Clan head, and Black Flame Hall Master gathered together. The Long Clan head said, "Doesn't your Black Flame Hall have a spy on Heaven Devil Island? Mobilize those spies to scout the situation." All right. The Black Flame Hall Master summoned someone and gave the order. After waiting for a few days, he was also a little anxious. They didn't know the situation on Heaven Devil Island at all, and they didn't know what to do next. Whether to advance or retreat, they needed accurate information. Another day passed by, and a spy finally sent out a piece of news from Heaven Devil Island. It shocked the Long Clan head, Black Flame Hall Master, Fu Clan head, and the others. They were speechless for a long time. The Zhang clan had over 100,000 people, a few hundred martial experts, and 3/3 Heaven martial experts in the dark to attack Heaven Devil City. However, they were completely annihilated. None of them escaped. The Great Demon Queen alone killed 3/3 Heaven martial experts and the Zhang clan's old ancestor. In addition, the Zhang clan's 3rd Tribulation Peak Stage expert was also killed by her. The rest of the Zhang clan's martial artists were killed by Axe Devil, Saber Devil, and Arrow Devil. None of them escaped and were all killed. There had been no news from the Alliance for the past few days. It was as if the scouts from the various major powers had vanished into thin air. The authenticity of this information was very high. It was impossible for a battle to last for so long. Most importantly, if the Zhang family won, why would the people of the demonic island still have the mood to kill the scouts they sent out? Cold. The moment they received the news, the leaders of the major forces felt a chill run down their spines from head to toe. Although they had thought that the Great Demon King might win, they didn't expect the Zhang family to lose so thoroughly. More than 100,000 people and several hundred 3rd Tribulation experts were almost the majority of the Zhang family's forces. After this battle, the Zhang family would be removed from the 36 major forces. From being the undisputed #1 family in the Second Heaven, to being removed from the list of the 36 major forces in the Second Heaven. There were even 3rd Heaven level experts participating in this battle, but they were still completely defeated. After the 3 of them sat together for a long time, the Fu clan leader's lips trembled and he said, "What should we do? Retreat? Wait a little longer." The Long family patriarch shook his head and said, "What if this is fake news? Although the Great Demon King was strong, how could he easily kill a 3rd celestial layer powerhouse? How about this? I will arrange for some people to enter the island to investigate." The Dragon Race Patriarch didn't believe it. The Zhang clan had a powerful backer in the 3rd Heaven, and they were able to invite a 3rd Heaven-level expert to descend. The Great Demon King couldn't be this powerful, right? All right, the others nodded. After all, they didn't really believe it. If the information was wrong, it would affect their judgment, and they would lose the initiative in many things. The Dragon Race Patriarch went to make arrangements. Of course, he wouldn't send anyone from the Dragon Race in. If something happened, it would implicate the Long clan. He sent some secret Death Warriors in. If all these Death Warriors were killed, he would be able to obtain some information. He sent a total of 50 men to enter from 5 different directions of the island. Each side had 10 men, and they had disguised their identities. Another 2 days passed, and there was finally news. Although more than half of the 50 elite Death Warriors had died, there was still news. The news was finally verified. After all, the entire Heaven Devil Island had heard that more than 100,000 people from the Zhang clan had been killed. Such an uplifting news had spread, and the entire Heaven Devil Island knew about it. Retreat. After receiving the confirmation, the Long clan, Black Flame Hall, and Fu clan didn't have any more hesitation. Everyone immediately retreated. Once the 3 factions made their move, many clan scouts immediately felt that something was wrong. However, they didn't receive any confirmation and didn't dare to spread it. Another 5 days passed, and a troop of soldiers came from the south of Heaven Devil Island. Those soldiers took out human heads from their rings and piled them on a small island in the south of the island. There were a lot of human heads, and after several hours, more than 100,000 human heads were piled up neatly on the small island. It was a magnificent sight. After this troop of soldiers retreated, countless scouts went to the small island. After investigating, their expressions all changed. Those human heads were arranged in a few rows, and the scouts recognized the human heads at the front. They were the Zhongsun clan's patriarch and elders. The news spread throughout the entire Second Heaven. It was supposed to be summer, but all the factions in the Second Heaven felt as if it was a biting cold winter. More than 100,000 people had been killed. The Zhongsun clan had sent out more than 100,000 people, and they had been completely wiped out. There were strange movements in Heaven Heart Island as well. The entire Zhongsun clan had suddenly disappeared these few days. Many cities didn't see a single Zhongsun clan member. It was as if the Zhongsun clan had vanished into thin air. The Zhongsun clan wasn't the only one in Heaven Heart Island. There were many other clans that depended on the Zhongsun clan. They were all panicking these few days. If the Zhongsun clan escaped, would they be annihilated if they stayed on Heaven Heart Island? Since the Zhongsun clan occupied Heaven Heart Island, it meant that Heaven Heart Island was a very good place. If the Zhongsun clan didn't want such a good place, there would naturally be other powerful factions who coveted it. Even if the Great Demon King didn't want Heaven Heart Island, other powerful factions would probably come to occupy it. At that time, a bloody battle would be unavoidable. Let's go. In the end, most of the factions that depended on the Zhongsun clan decided to leave. First, they were afraid of being hated by the Great Demon King. Second, they were afraid of being attacked by other factions. Although their clans would suffer huge losses if they left Heaven Heart Island, if they didn't leave, their clans might be annihilated. At this time, no one dared to think about Heaven Heart Island anymore. Many leaders of the powerful factions felt a little terrified, especially the factions that were on good terms with the Zhongsun clan. The martial artists of the Fu clan, Black Flame Hall, and Dragon Race didn't even dare to sleep these days. They were afraid that the Great Demon King would bring his army to kill them the moment they woke up. The Uncrowned King. If the battle on Chaos Island had established the Great Demon King's unparalleled prestige, then the annihilation of the Zhongsun clan had completely solidified the Great Demon King's position as the ruler. There was no the Arch in the Second Heaven, and there was no news from Heaven Devil Island. It seemed like the Great Demon King didn't have the intention to fight for hegemony or unify the entire Second Heaven. Chapter 21:33. The Qin clan wasn't one of the 36 major powers, but its influence wasn't any weaker. Plus, there was also the Heaven Immortal Alliance. Therefore, it was hard for Qin Zhan and Lady Qiong's wedding to go unnoticed. There were hundreds of cities in Qin King Island, and recently, all of them were in a festive mood. The people living in them were all in high spirits, as if the biggest festival had arrived. As the most outstanding disciple of the Qin clan, Qin Zhan had a great influence on the entire Qin King Island. His character was also recognized by the people of the island. The Qin clan was the royal family, and Qin Zhan was the crown prince. The crown prince married a princess from another power. A few months ago, the Qin clan even said that the island would be exempted from taxes for a year. How could the people of the island not be happy? Today, the Qin King City was the most lively. The teleportation array kept flashing, and more domain gates were opened. This broadened the horizons of the people in the city as they saw many famous big shots. Look, isn't it the young lady of the Mu clan? The Mu clan also sent 3 elders. Young Master's face is too big. What's the big deal about the Mu clan's elders? Do you know who was welcomed just now? That's the Hall Master of the Grasswood Hall, one of the top big shots in the Second Heaven. Look, another domain gate opened. Who is this? The clan master came to welcome him personally. I know. He's a hidden expert. ranked top 20 on the heavenly god list. He's a hidden great figure, Zhuge. I didn't expect him to come. He seemed to be on good terms with the clan master back then. The city was in an uproar from time to time. Every time a big shot came, the people in the city would be excited. They were all the people of the Qin clan. They felt honored that so many big shots came to congratulate the Qin clan. Because of Zhuge Xiong's arrival, the people who came later turned pale. After all, Zhuge Xiong was ranked 16th on the heavenly god list. Although he was a hidden rogue cultivator, he was stronger than the leaders of the major powers. The Fu clan's elder is here. The Fu clan's new divine son, Fu Yang, is here. The new young temple master Black Flame Hall is here too. What's the name of this generation's young temple master? Yanxi? The palace lord of the Black Flame Hall is not here. Seems like the Black Flame Hall and the Fu family are not giving me any face. The Bu family and the Gu family only sent their divine son, divine daughter, and a few elders over. They probably have some complaints about our Qin family. Little Young Master and Little Devil King are very close. The leaders of these forces must be secretly dissatisfied. Almost all the forces in the Stormy Sea region had sent representatives. Some of them were family heads, while others were represented by divine sons, goddesses, or elders. It was almost time, and those who were supposed to be here had all arrived. The largest palace in Imperial Qin City was already filled with people, and there were hundreds of tables set up. The side halls were also filled with tables. The guests who came this time could fill at least 1,000 tables. The sky fluctuated, and another space gate opened. 3 people flew out from it. Many people took a glance and didn't pay much attention at first. Great factions would always have a grand entrance. This faction had only sent 3 people. It was obvious that it wasn't big enough. That person? A surprised voice rang out. Next, many figures flew out from countless castles. It was not just the Qin clan's clan head and elders. Even the leaders and elders of the other powers flew out. Qin Liantian, family head of the Qin family, laughed from afar. His laughter was filled with joy. He cupped his fists and said, Lord Axe Demon, young Master Lu, and young Master Gon, you have graced us with your presence. The entire Imperial Qin Island is honored by your presence. I am so grateful. Qin Zhan was wearing a red robe, beaming with joy. Seeing that Lu Li was here, his smile grew wider. He cupped his fists and said, Lord Axe Demon, Brother Lu, Brother Gon, thank you very much. Axe Demon, Lu Li. The entire city was in an uproar, even more so than when Zhuge Xiong arrived. The Demon King was the uncrowned leader of the Second Heaven. Axe Demon was the most powerful general under the Demon King's command and also the spokesperson of the Demon King. Who was Lu Li? He was the Little Devil King, the illegitimate son of the Demon King. Putting aside his relationship with the Demon King, Lu Li himself was an extraordinary man, the most powerful among the young generation. 2 warriors at the peak of the Third Tribulation had died in his hands. Zhuge Xiong was strong, but he was only at the peak of the Third Tribulation. The arrival of Lu Li and Axe Demon really brought light to the Qin Imperial City, which made the standard of this wedding exceptionally high. Many patriarchs and patriarchs of other families, who usually didn't have the chance to interact with Lu Li and Axe Demon, gathered around at this moment. It seemed that the protagonist today was not Qin Zhan, but Lu Li and Axe Demon. Lu Li and Axe Demon exchanged greetings for a while. Axe Demon waved his hand and said, Let's talk later. This time, we are here to attend Qin Zhan's wedding. Qin Zhan, I wish you a happy wedding. I have prepared a small gift. I hope you don't mind. Axe Demon presented an exquisite gift box. Qin Zhan quickly received it with both hands in fear. He bowed with gratitude and said, Thank you, Lord Axe Demon, for your kindness. Axe Demon laughed and waved his hand. You're friends with Lu Li and Gon Lin. From now on, don't call me Lord. Call me Grandpa Gon. The Qin family patriarch and a group of patriarchs were overjoyed. They bowed and thanked Axe Demon again and again. The words of Axe Demon carried a lot of weight. Qin Zhan called Axe Demon Grandpa Gone. From now on, the status of the Qin family in the second heaven would rise by several levels. Anyone who wanted to attack the Qin family would have to consider Axe Demon's attitude. Qin Zhan, happy wedding. Lu Li and Gan Lin both presented gifts. Lu Li gave a heaven and earth elixir. This elixir was priceless. It was enough for a gift. Lu Li, I'm very happy that you can come today. You even gave me a gift. Qin Zhan's voice was choking with sobs. Lu Li's presence was already a great honor for him. This would have a far-reaching impact on the Qin family. We are brothers. Don't say these things. Lu Li patted Qin Zhan's shoulder. They flew down. Qin Liantian personally led them in. Axe Demon and Lu Li were arranged to sit at the head of the table. Next to them was Zhuge Xiong. You are Lu Li? Zhuge Xiong was not unhappy that a young man was arranged to sit next to him. Instead, he looked at Lu Li with curiosity and said, Heroes come from the young. When I was your age, I was only at the second heaven tribulation realm. Qin Liantian introduced Lu Li at once. Lu Li would never slap a smiling face. He smiled, cupped his fists, and said, Greetings, Lord Zhuge. Thank you for the compliment. Lu Li's attitude was modest. Zhuge Xiong was even more satisfied. He stroked his white beard and said, There are rumors that you are unruly, extreme, condescending, and arrogant. Now that I have seen you, it seems that they are all rumors. How can you be such a person when you are so polite? You are such a good boy, gentle and modest. How can you be discredited? Are they still human? The Fu family, the Black Flame Hall, the Bu family, and the Gu family were speechless. Chapter 21:34. Because of the arrival of Lu Li and Axe Demon, the wedding became livelier. Many people were putting on airs at first, but as soon as Axe Demon and Lu Li sat down, the smiles on their faces grew wider. They praised Qin Zhan and were more polite to Qin Liantian. Axe Demon told Qin Zhan to call him Grandpa Gone, which changed Qin Zhan's status. Axe Demon had received many visitors before, but he didn't show any affection. Now that he was being so nice to Qin Zhan, the status of the Qin family became special. The most important thing was the relationship between Lu Li and Qin Zhan. Lu Li said brother in public. If someone offended Qin Zhan and Lu Li stood up for him, who could stand up for him? The little devil was not as docile and modest as Zhuge Xiong described him to be. How much trouble had he caused over the years? How many immortal princes and goddesses had died? The Fu family's immortal prince of the Black Flame Hall had just been replaced. An ordinary wedding had become unusual. Many people regretted that they didn't give enough gifts and were trying to make up for it. With Axe Demon and Lu Li on their side, the Qin family could do whatever they wanted in the Stormsea area. After the ceremony, Qin Zhan and Lady Qiong toasted one by one. Qin Zhan was drunk and his face was glowing. He was the happiest today to be able to marry the girl he liked. Some were happy and some were sad. The Qin family was jubilant, but the Fu family and the Bu family of the Black Flame Hall were restless. The two immortal princes of the Fu family and the Black Flame Hall felt like they were sitting on pins and needles. Their greatest enemy was sitting not far away. Countless people were going up to him to toast him, but no one was paying any attention to them. Furthermore, some divine sons and divine daughters even saw that their target was a little strange and had a faint look of mockery. Yin Shi, the new immortal prince of the Black Flame Hall, was finally displeased to see the immortal princes and goddesses who were on good terms with him were going to toast to Lu Li. Being young and impetuous, he put down his glass and stood up, ready to leave. His loud noise attracted many people's attention. Qin Liantian, Qin Zhan, and Lady Qiong had just gone to the side chamber to toast and didn't see it. However, the patriarchs of the Qin family changed their expressions. The day of the wedding was such a joyous occasion. If the divine prince of the Black Flame Hall were to cause a scene, it would affect the atmosphere of the day and make the Qin clan lose face even though they were not afraid. Lu Li had just drunk a goblet of wine. He threw a glance to Yin Shi and then to the patriarchs of the Qin family. He was displeased. Before the patriarchs of the Qin family could say anything, Lu Li said indifferently, "Who are you? Did you drink too much?" Swish, swish, swish. Yan Qi's face flushed red when he saw the countless gazes on him. Just now, he was angry and wanted to put down his cup and leave. Now that Lu Li had said so, it would be shameful for him to leave now. As the new holy son of the Hall of Black Flame, everyone here knew him. How could Lu Li ask who he was? If he left now, wouldn't it mean that he was afraid of Lu Li? The patriarchs of the Hall of Black Flames on the side kept winking at him, but he pretended not to notice. He took a deep breath, looked at Lu Li, and said, "Yin Qi, the chosen warrior of the Hall of Black Flames. Young Master Lu, you are at the second heaven now. It is normal that you don't know me." Yin Qi? Lu Li raised his eyebrows. He understood why Yin Qi smashed his goblet. It would have been fine if it were any other occasion. But today was Qin Zhang's wedding. How could Yin Qi be so disrespectful? Jiang Yi's face turned cold as his eyes flashed coldly. Without giving any face, he said, "The previous godson was not you." "Oh, I forgot. I killed the previous godson of the Black Flame Hall. You were chosen later, right? Son of Yin, if you are drunk, go back and rest. Don't disturb the feast." What? Lu Li's words caused an uproar in the hall. Lu Li was being disrespectful. He pointed out that Yin Qi killed the former holy son of the Hall of Black Flames. It was one thing to press Black Flame Hall's face into the ground and stomp on it, but he was also spitting on it. "Young Master." The patriarchs of the Hall of Black Flames were frightened, but they didn't argue with Lu Li. Instead, they stood up and tried to stop Yin Qi, fearing that he would act rashly. Lu Li was not the old Lu Li. Not even their grandmaster would dare to do anything, let alone the patriarchs. If Yin Qi were to act rashly, he would only be asking for humiliation. Yin Qi's eyes turned slightly red. As the new generation's god's son, he was naturally the Yin clan's pride and was usually held in high regard. Everywhere he went, he would hear compliments. Well, had he ever been humiliated like this? And in front of so many important figures? Axe Demon picked up a goblet of wine and gulped it down. Luckily, he came along this time. Otherwise, Lu Li, the troublemaker, would stir up trouble. Maybe the Hall of Black Flames would have to change the Holy Sun again. Even though Yin Qi was filled with anger, he didn't lose his mind. He didn't do something as stupid as challenging Lu Li to a duel. He sneered and said, "Just now, Lord Zhuge said that young Master Lu is gentle and modest. Is this what you mean by gentle and modest? Lord Zhuge, you have seen what it means to bully others with your power." Zhuge Xiong pouted, but said nothing. Instead, he looked at Lu Li with interest, wondering how he would deal with this. Lu Li didn't care what others thought of him. He didn't even explain anything about Zhang's son Ru Yu. Sometimes, the more he explained, the harder it was to explain. Did it really matter what others thought of him? Since when did the evil lord care about others? What do you mean by bully others with your power? Lu Li put on a mocking smile and said, "When I killed the former holy son of your family, did I ever rely on anyone's power? Today is my brother's wedding. You're the one who made trouble first. Otherwise, who'll want to talk to you? Speaking of power, if you're not the holy son of the Hall of Black Flames, then who do you think you are? How about we go out now, and let's not rely on power. Let's just have a duel." Everyone quieted down. Lu Li had drawn his sword. If Yin Qi agreed, then the Hall of Black Flames would really have to change their holy sun. This holy sun could tell that Lu Li had just reached the third tribulation realm. Lu Li had even killed warriors at the peak of the third tribulation. To kill Yin Qi would be as easy as crushing an ant. If Yin Qi was trembling with anger, he almost agreed to Lu Li's challenge. Sensing something was off, the patriarch next to him said in a hurry, "Young Master Lu, you are so arrogant. How can you bully a kid?" "Then I won't bully him." Lu Li didn't back down. He looked at the patriarch and said, "How about I bully you? You three patriarchs can fight together, and I, Lu Li, can handle it alone." This time, it was the patriarch's turn to vomit blood. The three patriarchs were all at the later stage of the third tribulation. They didn't dare to fight Lu Li. What was more, the axe demon was here. He could defeat many warriors at the peak of the third tribulation. Lu Li saw that the warriors of the Hall of Black Flames didn't dare to say anything. He believed that Qin Zhan and the others would be back soon. Lu Li waved his hand impatiently and said, "If you want to fight, then fight. If not, get out. Don't disturb our drinking. What are you up to by making trouble on someone else's wedding day?" "You." The patriarch of the Hall of Black Flames was trembling with anger again. He was alarmed to see that Yin Qi's eyes were bloodshot. Fearing that Yin Qi would agree to the duel on impulse, the patriarch dragged Yin Qi out and said, "The Hall of Black Flames will remember what happened today. Goodbye." Chapter 2135. By the time Qin Zhan and the others came in, the warriors of the Hall of Black Flame had left. Qin Liantian and Qin Zhan should have known, but they pretended not to. The atmosphere returned to normal, as if the warriors of the Hall of Black Flame had never been here. After this incident, the atmosphere in the hall became even more intense. At first, the Fu family, Bu family, and Guf family wanted to leave. But now, they had to be obedient and put on a smile. Yin Qi was a negative example. If she were to get into conflict with Lu Li, she would only be asking for humiliation. Not even patriarchs of the Hall of Black Flame dared to fight Lu Li. If the immortal princes and goddesses went to Lu Li, they would be asking for humiliation. There were so many people here today. The Hall of Black Flame had been disgraced. Of course, the Hall of Black Flame had been disgraced, and so had the Fu family. As long as Lu Li was alive, the Hall of Black Flame and the Fu family would never be able to raise their heads again. In the past, the Hall of Black Flame swore that they had killed the god of massacre from hell and hung a corpse on it. Now, it seemed to be a big joke. The Hall of Black Flame used to be among the top 10 of the 36 forces. But secretly, the Hall of Black Flame had been at the bottom, at least in terms of prestige. Now, some powerful warriors had left the Hall of Black Flame, let alone those who had gone to the Hall of Black Flame. A force could not rely on just one family. Take the Qin family as an example. Even though the Qin family was the leader, many patriarchs were not of the same family. A major power needed many clans to unite and constantly recruit experts in order to maintain its prestige and territory. If a force had a bad reputation, the powerful warriors that were attached to it would leave, not to mention attracting powerful warriors from outside. Gradually, the force would decline or even perish. This was the case for the Hall of Black Flame and the Fu family. For example, if a genius was recruited by the Hall of Black Flame and the Qin family at the same time and offered the same conditions, the genius would definitely choose the Qin family. When the powerful warriors of the Hall of Black Flame and the Fu family passed away, there would be no new warriors to replace them. The two forces would perish sooner or later. The drinking lasted until the afternoon. The guests gradually left, but some stayed because the axe demon and Lu Li hadn't left yet. Lu Li didn't leave. It was Qin Zhan who invited him alone. After entertaining the guests for the whole morning, Qin Zhan let Qin Liantian handle the rest. He invited Gan Lin and Lu Li to his own yard. "Lu Li, what are your plans for the future?" Qin Zhan didn't waste any words. After asking the maid to serve tea, he asked with a serious expression. Although he had drunk a lot of wine, it was nothing to a martial artist like him. "What's the plan?" Lu Li was confused, and so was Gan Lin. "Do you plan to spend the rest of your life in the second layer of heaven?" Qin Zhan was a straightforward person. He went straight to the point and asked, "Are you not planning to go to the third layer of heaven?" "Third heaven?" Gan Lin's eyes flashed, and a yearning look appeared on his face. Lu Li frowned. On the day of Qin Zhan's wedding, he didn't accompany his wife. Instead, he talked to him about the third heaven. What was going on? He nodded and said, "I will definitely go to the third heaven, but my strength is not enough. I need to reach the peak of the third tribulation before I can go." "Sure enough." Qin Zhan smiled and nodded. "I knew you would go back to the third heaven. The second heaven can no longer give you excitement." "Ha, ha, ha." In other words, there is nothing in the second heaven that you can harm. People like you are more suitable to go to the third heaven. What do you mean by harm? Luli curled his lips innocently and said, You know that I don't like to cause trouble. It is others who provoke me. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. Qin said seriously. Luli, you have to promise me one thing. When you go to the third heaven, you must take me with you. I will go with you and explore the third heaven. What? Luli was speechless. He rolled his eyes and said, You just got married and your wife just got married, but you want to go with me to the third heaven? Do you know anything about the third heaven? Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to come back? You haven't gone yet, have you? Qin grinned, took a sip of tea, and said, I think it will take you 10 years to go to the third heaven. After 10 years, my children will be a few years old. During these years, I will make the best use of my time to leave a descendant for the Qin family. By then, I can go with you to the third heaven. It is too depressing in the second heaven. As the Qin family's chosen one, my every move has to be controlled. Most importantly, there are too many things to worry about here. Only when I go to the third heaven can I fight with my life on the line. Only then can I achieve great achievements on the path of martial arts. I feel that going to the third heaven with you will be very exciting. Exciting? Ganlin's eyes lit up at this moment. He looked at Luli seriously and said, Luli, when you go, you must take me with you. The second heaven is really not that interesting. Us three brothers will go to the third heaven together. In the future, the three of us will become emperors and return home in glory. Luli was speechless. Were they out of their minds? Did they think the third heaven was a place of treasures? To go sightseeing and treasure hunting? Luli said to the two seriously, You must know many things. The devil offended Empress Phoenix and the Zhongsun family of the third heaven. I don't know why he didn't go down to the mortal world to seek revenge, but I can promise you, as long as we go to the third heaven, we will be hunted down endlessly by the two forces. If you are impatient, you can find a rope and hang yourselves now. I know. Qin's tone was very firm. He nodded and said, I know all this, but I know one more thing. If I don't go to the third heaven, I can only reach the peak of the third tribulation realm of my life, and then repeat the life of my grandpa and father. This kind of life is so boring. If I didn't meet Yu Qiong, I would have gone to the third heaven by myself. Now that Yu Qiong is married to me, I have no more regrets. Also, it will be exciting to follow you. You know, a warrior can only go through life and death battles if he wants to become a powerful warrior. I have a feeling that if I follow you, I will have a chance to reach the fourth tribulation realm. Ganlin answered with determination. Luli, I am serious as well. You know about my life at the Omen Island. I don't want to live under my grandpa's protection for the rest of my life. I want to go to the third heaven. If you don't take me, then I will go alone. All right. Luli shrugged and said, I will let you know when I am leaving. If you can convince Patriarch Qin and Lord Axe Demon, I will take you with me. It's a deal. Qin was overjoyed, but Ganlin was frowning. Clearly, he did not have much confidence in convincing Axe Demon. 10 years. Luli was confused. Could his comprehensive abilities reach the peak of the third tribulation realm in 10 years? After practicing the bone refining technique for 10 years, his bones should have turned black, right? By then, could his physical body be as strong as the peak of the third tribulation realm? I need to cultivate the ghost cut. I need to find a way. Luli nodded. If the ghost cut could be integrated with two more fundamental meanings and his physical abilities, he could be as strong as a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation realm. Chapter 2136. Time flew by like a shuttle, and 10 years passed very quickly. The third heaven didn't send anyone down, not even one. Many warriors of the second heaven could not understand this. Phoenix Empress and the Zhongsun family of the moon lake swallowed their anger. This was not logical. As long as the warriors at the third heaven didn't come down, the second heaven wouldn't be disturbed, not even a little bit. During these 10 years, apart from a few major forces fighting on Heavenly Heart Island and some minor conflicts, the second heaven had been terrifyingly quiet for the past 10 years. Little Devil Lu Li didn't make trouble for the Fu family or the Black Flame Hall or the Dragon Race. He never came out after he went back to the Omen Island, which made many forces feel relieved. As long as the Little Devil didn't come out, nothing would happen. The Celestial God list was updated. The Little Devil became the number 1, and Little Devil Lu Li entered the top 100. Lu Li was not stable. Even though he could kill Yunjian Tian and the patriarchs of the Zhongsun family, the Celestial God list only gave him a rank in the 60s. If one had to say that something major had happened, it would be that the Heavenly Sound Palace had sold 2 Xuanwu fruits. But the fruit were sold for a long time, for years, because the fruits could not be bought with divine origin gold. They had to be traded with elixirs that could refine the body. One black tortoise fruit could prolong one's life by 30,000 years. For some old farts, it was a real elixir. Many old farts went to dangerous places to hunt for treasures. Eventually, 2 old farts traded the fruits with elixirs. During the 10 years, the Fu family and the Black Flame Hall had declined. The Dragon Race was better, but they never came out again. The entire Dragon Race sealed off the island. No disciple came out for 10 years. During the 10 years, not only did the Fu family of the Black Flame Hall lose one powerful warrior or genius, they lost dozens. Disciples of the 2 forces didn't dare to go out. Once or twice, they were bullied and laughed at by the young generation of other forces. Master of the Black Flame Hall, family patriarch of the Fu family, and their patriarchs were worried. But they couldn't find a solution no matter how hard they tried. As long as the Little Devil was still in the second heaven, the 2 forces would never be able to lift their heads and would gradually fade away. The Qin clan had become much stronger in the past 10 years, attracting many geniuses and experts to seek refuge with them. In these 10 years, Qin Zhan almost never came out. Other than making babies at home, he was cultivating. She had 2 sons and a daughter. She was very successful in both aspects. His realm had also reached the middle stage of the Third Tribulation. His overall combat strength was comparable to the late stage of the Third Tribulation. Ganlin was almost the same. Ganlin, who had no intention of getting married, married a woman in the second year. This woman was not the goddess of a great power, but an ordinary woman on Heavenly Devil Island. In 10 years, she had given birth to 3 sons, and her battle prowess had also increased by leaps and bounds, reaching the late stage of the Third Tribulation. Compared to the 2, Lu Li was worlds apart. Over the past 10 years, Lu Li had been working hard and would go down to the divinity to sow seeds. That being said, he did not have a single wife or concubine. From this point of view, the problem did not lie with Jiang Qiling by Qiu Xue and Prajna, but with Lu Li. For this matter, Lu Li had asked several so-called highly skilled doctors to take a look, but none of them could tell the problem. Lu Xingyang, Lu Renhuang, and the others were worried. Lu Xingyang even told Lu Renhuang to marry some girls. Otherwise, the bloodline would be cut off. Lu was an adopted son, but he was not a pure-blood descendant of the Lu family. But in terms of combat abilities, Lu Li had improved. He had been cultivating divine energy for 10 years and had consumed many treasures. Lu Li's pellet had doubled in size. When he used the relic iron, the power could be maximized. There was still some divine energy left after he used it. His bones had turned black. He had entered the 3rd stage of bone refinement. He had consumed all the marrow and liquid of earth dragons. He had consumed all the conjoined pellets given by the families, including the pellets he exchanged with the black tortoise fruit. Lu Li's body had been improved by leaps and bounds. According to Axe Demon, Lu Li's body could be compared to a warrior at the peak of the Third Tribulation, which meant that an average warrior at the peak of the Third Tribulation would not be able to kill Lu Li. The Worm of Void and the Master of Venomous Worms did not evolve. Lu Li secretly went to look for some powerful beasts of primordial chaos. However, the Worm of Void only split and did not evolve. Lu Li knew nothing about the Master of Venomous Worms. He would not find a corpse to refine the Master of Venomous Worms. Naturally, The worm of void did not evolve. Luli had made great progress in fundamental principle as well. He had been studying for 10 years. He went to several places of treasure on the Omen Island. He successfully learned an offensive fundamental principle of wind and integrated it into the Slayer's Ghost Chop. The Slayer's Ghost Chop was further strengthened. It was a pity that the fundamental principle integrated into the Slayer's Ghost Chop was weak. Therefore, the Slayer's Ghost Chop was not that powerful. It should not be difficult for the Slayer's Ghost Chop to kill a warrior at the later stage of the Third Tribulation. But to kill one at the peak of the Third Tribulation would be difficult. The worm of void, the master of venomous worms, the physical body, the Slayer's Ghost Chop, the unfettered steps, the dragon wings, and the relic iron. Luli's comprehensive abilities could be compared to a warrior at the peak of the Third Tribulation. At the very least, it would be difficult for an average warrior at the peak of the Third Tribulation to kill him. Luli had finished all the elixirs. He could not learn fundamental principle anytime soon. He had reached a bottleneck. Apart from cultivating divine energy and bone refinement, there was nothing else for him to do. Today, Luli came out from cultivation. It was not that he wanted to, but two guests had come to him. Luli forced a smile when he saw it was Qin Zhan and Gan Lin. They were even more impatient than he was. What? Axe Demon and Lord Qin have agreed? Luli picked up a cup of tea and glanced at the two of them. Qin Zhan grinned and said, "Yes. My old man is in the prime of his life. My younger brothers are doing well. The Qin family has been developing fast these years. My departure will not affect the Qin family." "What about Yu Qiong?" Luli asked with curiosity. Yu Qiong has agreed to go to the third heaven. They had been married for 10 years. In terms of their lifespan, they were still newlyweds. How could Lady Qiong let Qin Zhan go to the third heaven so easily? "She will support me," Qin Zhan said with a smile. "She knows my ambition. She knows that I will be bored to death at the second heaven." "What about you?" Luli turned around and looked at Gan Lin. The latter was frowning, but he soon waved his hand and said, "Lord Qin has agreed. The rest is not a problem." Gan Lin's meaning was clear. Axe Demon had agreed, but his father probably hadn't. His wife was not happy either. But since Axe Demon had agreed, the rest was not a problem. "Go back and have a good talk with your sister-in-law and uncle." Luli waved his hand and made up his mind. He said, "We will leave for the third heaven in a month. But don't make it public. We will leave secretly. Don't tell anyone except for our family." "Okay." Qin Zhan and Gan Lin stood up in excitement. What they had been looking forward to for 10 years was finally going to happen. They were very excited. Chapter 2137. Palace of Mystic Armor, Mount Cloud. Patriarch of Law Enforcement, Lu Zhengyang, and Lu Renhuang were sitting together. Lu Renhuang had been cultivating, but was called out by Lu Li. The three of them looked at Lu Li, who did not know what to say. It would be unfilial of him to leave after spending 10 years with his family. Lu Renhuang knew his son well. Seeing that Lu Li was hesitating, Lu Renhuang asked, "Tell me, where are you going this time? How long will you be gone?" Lu Li sighed. No one knew his son as well as his father. He got up, dropped to one knee, and said, "I am sorry. I have to go on a long journey. As for when exactly, I don't know." Patriarch of Law Enforcement and Lu Zhengyang looked at each other. Both of them looked solemn. They had been in the second heaven for a long time. They had a better understanding of this world. Patriarch of Law Enforcement asked, "Are we going to the third heaven?" Lu Li nodded. Lu Zhengyang asked, "Do you have to go?" "I have to," Lu Li said with determination. Patriarch of Law Enforcement waved his hand and said, "If you have to go, then go. Don't worry about your family. We'll keep an eye on those rascals. They will be fine." Lu Renhuang thought about it for a while. Then, he asked with hope, "Are you going to find Ling'er?" "Yes and no." Lu Li explained, "I promised the devil that I would do something for her in the third heaven. Also, I have reached a bottleneck, and I want to go there to try my luck. Well, I can also see if I can bring my sister back." "Okay, go." Lu Renhuang waved his hand. Then, he thought of something and sighed with regret. "You bastard. You cannot have a descendant for the Lu family. What is wrong with you? Do you want to ask the devil?" Well, I don't think it is appropriate. Luli was speechless. How could he ask the devil about this? After all, the devil was a woman and she was unmarried. Luli raised his eyebrows. He put on a mocking smile and said, Father, how about marrying another concubine? You bastard. Lu Renwang frowned. He blushed and said, Go, and talk to your wives. Luli left with a smile. Noticing that patriarch of law enforcement and Lu Xingyang were looking at him, Lu Renhuang was even more embarrassed. He cupped his fists and said, Grandpa, Father, I will go and cultivate now. Wait, Lu Xingyang asked tentatively, Your Majesty, are you really not going to consider what Liu said? Luli walked into the backyard with heavy steps. It was easier for him to talk to Lu Renhuang, but it was hard for him to talk to Jiang Qiling and Bai Qiuxue. When he walked into the backyard, he saw that everyone was there, basking in the sun and chatting. When they saw Luli coming in, they all stood up with joy. Everyone's here. I don't have to call them one by one. Luli walked over and took the tea from Qi Shi'er. He took a sip, but said nothing. Qi Shi'er and Prajna were confused. Bai Xiaoshuang went behind Luli to massage his shoulders. Only Jiang Qiling and Bai Qiuxue looked at each other, feeling something was off. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Luli said nothing. Jiang Qiling sighed and said, Darling, is there something else? Are you going out for a while? Going out? Bai Xiaoshuang, who was massaging Luli's shoulders, stopped. She asked in panic, Darling, where are you going? How long are you going to be gone? Alas, Luli sighed. His arrival in the divinity and the second heaven had made Bai Xiaoshuang and the others anxious. They reacted so much when they heard that he was going out. But how could Luli hide this from them? He forced a smile and patted Bai Xiaoshuang's hands. At the same time, he winked at Jiang Qiling and Bai Qiuxue and said, I am going out to do something for the devil. I will go to the third heaven and come back when I am done. Don't worry. The devil has arranged everything. Qinzhan and Ganlin will come with me. Nothing will go wrong. Where's the third heaven? Is it far? Bai Xiaoshuang did not pay much attention to these things. Neither did Qi Shi'er. She looked at Prajna with confusion. Prajna, Bai Qiuxue, and Jiang Qiling looked uneasy. Since the devil has made arrangements, then I hope you can come back as soon as possible. After the time for 10 breaths, Jiang Qiling forced a smile. She looked at Prajna and Qi Shi'er and said, Don't worry. Ganlin is the grandson of the axe demon. Qinzhan will go with him. It will be fine. Luli took Jiang Qiling's hands with gratitude. Jiang Qiling, it was a good girl. She comforted Qi Shi'er and Prajna for him. What more could he ask for when he had a wife like this? Bai Qiuxue pressed her lips and asked, When are you leaving, darling? In a month. Luli stood up, patted Bai Qiuxue's shoulder and said, Take a seat. I will go to the Asmodean city to meet the devil. Before I leave, he has something to tell us. Go, darling. Don't worry about us. Bai Qiuxue stood up and hugged Luli. She put on a smile, but it seemed to be a forced one. Luli could not bear to see them like this. He made up his mind and left. He took the teleportation formation to the Asmodean city. Axe Demon brought Luli to the island where the devil lived. The chubby princess was not here. Luli did not know where she had gone. He met the devil in the back garden. She was still sitting in the pavilion with her legs crossed, a book in one hand and Buddhist beads in the other. When Luli came in, the devil opened her eyes, looked at him, nodded, and said, You have reached the peak of the third tribulation in 10 years. Not bad, but Luli, it will be difficult for you to cultivate the supreme, immortal body. The further you go, the more difficult it will be. Even at the third heaven, there are only less than 10 who have mastered the supreme, immortal body. Which path is not difficult? Luli forced a smile and said, Lord, I plan to go to the third heaven in a month. Ganlin and Qinzhan will go with me. When I get to the third heaven, I will try my best to get the book back for you. If I cannot, I will not go back to the second heaven. Have a seat. The devil waved her hand. A chair appeared out of nowhere. She said to the axe demon, You can leave now. I have something to tell Luli. The axe demon left. The devil didn't say anything. Instead, he took out a jade slip and handed it to Lu Li. Take a look. This is a map of the third heaven. It is not completely accurate, but the general topography is correct. Lu Li opened the jade slip at once. After a flash of white light, a vast picture appeared in his mind. He took a closer look and realized it was a huge map. 6 seas and 9 continents. After the time for 1 incense stick to burn, Lu Li put away the jade slip. His eyes were clear again. He asked with curiosity, "Lord, how large is the third heaven?" The great demon king turned the Buddhist beads in his hand. He raised his head and pondered for a moment before saying, "It's not particularly big. Well, let me tell you this. The smallest continent in the third heaven is about 10 times the size of the second heaven." What? Even though Lu Li was prepared, he was still shocked. There were 9 continents in the third heaven, and the biggest one was about 10 times the size of the smallest one. Chapter 21:38. Of the 9 continents and 6 seas, even the smallest one was 10 times the size of the second heaven. How big was the third heaven? Lu Li didn't know. Lu Li had found the Dragon Rebel Valley and the Broken Sword Mountain. The Dragon Rebel Valley was on the Flying Fire continent in the middle, and the Broken Sword Mountain was on the Chilly Winter continent in the south. The third heaven was a vast place. Lu Li didn't care about the other places apart from the Dragon Rebel Valley and the Broken Sword Mountain. He asked a critical question, "Lord, where will we be teleported to the third heaven?" The demon lord thought about it and said, "If I am not mistaken, we will be at the Xi'an continent, the smallest one." Lu Li was speechless. The Xi'an continent was at the south, while the Flying Fire continent, where the Dragon Rebel Valley was located, was in the middle of the third heaven. There was a continent and a sea between them. How long would it take to get there? He didn't want to spend thousands of years on the road. "Lord," Lu Li asked, "how can I get to the third heaven? Can I open a portal? If I take teleportation formations, it will take me decades or even 100 years." "Yes, I can." The demon lord nodded and said, "But the space in the third heaven is very stable. If you want to teleport over a long distance, you must have a super large altar. Those who can build such altars must be from major forces. You will have to ask them for help." Buzzing, the demon lord took out a yellow bead, handed it to Lu Li, and said, "When you go to the Dragon Rebel Valley, give this bead to their family. They will give you the ancient scroll. When you go back to the Xi'an continent, you can go back to the second heaven." "All right, you can go now." Old Azura has already gone to the third heaven. He has built an altar in the Palace of All Life. Go to the Palace of All Life and tell Li Xiao Yao about it. You can use the teleportation altar to teleport to the third heaven. The demon lord waved his hand and closed his eyes. Lu Li didn't leave right away. He touched his nose and asked, "Lord, is there anything you want to tell me? I am in the dark about the third heaven, and I don't know anything. My death is not a big deal. I am just afraid that I might ruin your plan." "What's there to teach?" The great demon king didn't even open his eyes. He waved his hand and said, "The third heaven is almost the same as the second heaven. It's just that the place is bigger, with more experts and more treasures. Of course, it's also more dangerous. It's useless to say more. Everything depends on your fate. If your fate isn't good, you might die immediately after reaching the third layer of heaven. It's useless no matter what I say. Go. Good luck and come back soon." Lu Li was speechless. He felt like the demon king was setting him up, casually finding an excuse to throw him to the third heaven and send him to his death. Did the great demon king dislike him that much? Even if he didn't warn him, he should at least give him some treasures to protect himself, right? The Asmodean lord said no more, and Lu Li was too embarrassed to continue. He cupped his fists and left. After Lu Li left, Axe Demon came back. He walked to the pavilion, bowed, and said, "Lord, Axe Demon didn't say anything, but he was worried." The Demon King didn't open his eyes. He waved his hand and said, "I know what you are worried about, but a jade that is not cut will not be useful. The third heaven is the center of the world. If Lu Li and the others don't go to the third heaven, they will never become the most powerful warriors in the world. Don't blame us for not teaching them or giving them treasures. There are too many uncertainties in the third heaven. It is useless to teach them. It is better to let them go on their own. As for treasures, he already has a holy weapon fragment. How long do you think he can survive in the third heaven if we give him more? Haven't you heard of the saying that an innocent man will get into trouble because of his wealth? You are right, Lord. Axe Demon nodded and said nothing more. Now that he had decided to let Gon Lin follow Lu Li to the third heaven, there was no need to think too much. Life and death would be in the hands of the three. Alas, after Axe Demon left, the Demon King opened his eyes. He sighed and said, Lu Li, don't blame me for getting you involved. You're a 7 tribulation chosen one. Your fate has been decided. Either you rise to the top or you sink into oblivion forever. Even if you stay in the second heaven, the other 6 will come for you. Only one of the 7 tribulation chosen one can survive. This is your fate. Rustle, rustle, rustle. After a moment, the Demon King opened his eyes again. Lu Li had come back, and he seemed to be a bit hesitant. The Demon King was getting impatient. He waved his hand and said, I told you, there is nothing to explain. You will know when you get to the third heaven. It is not about that. Lu Li bowed. He was even more embarrassed. His lips moved several times before he plucked up the courage to say, Lord, I have been doing that for many years, but I don't have any children. Can you give me some advice? What do you mean by that? Children? At first, the Demon King was confused. Then, she became angry. She stared at Lu Li coldly and said, Bastard, you cannot get your wife pregnant. Why are you asking me about this? I am not a man. You can find a man to help you. Lu Li rolled his eyes. The Demon King's joke was not funny at all. He could not get his wife pregnant, so he had to find another man to help? Then would the child still be his? He didn't want to be cheated. Lord, you are so good. You could do anything. Lu Li flattered and said with a smile, Lord, do you have any top-level elixirs or something? Can you help me and have a child? My wife and the others will be happier. Even if something happens to me, the Lu family will have descendants. Lu Li really had no other choice. He had to be thick-skinned and ask the Demon King for help. If he could have a son and a daughter, Jiang Qiling and Bai Qiuxue would be happier. They wouldn't have to think about it when he was away. I can't do anything about it. The Demon King thought about it and waved her hand. This is a problem with your body. Well, you can ask around at the third heaven. Maybe you can find a solution. All right. Lu Li cupped his fists and left. The great Demon King's pretty face showed a trace of anger. Her chest heaved up and down. After a long time, she spat out a sentence. This little bastard, you dare to ask me about this? Do you really think I could do anything? But I think it is because of the 7 trials of divine evil body that he cannot get pregnant. Such a heaven-defying body constitution is indeed unbearable for ordinary women. It's normal that it's hard for them to give birth. Lu Li didn't cultivate after he came back from the Asmodean city. He spent all his time with Qi Shi'er and Qiuxue Prajna. He even took some time to teleport to the divinity to talk to Pan Yuqin, Ling Qingyin, and the others. Lu Li set off with Gon Lin and Qin Zhan at the end of a month. The Axe Demon opened the space gate in person to send them to the Palace of Life. Ha. Li Xiaoyao welcomed Lu Li and the others in person. After learning the purpose of their visit, Li Xiaoyao said with a smile, Before our forefather went to the third heaven, he said that you would go there as well. I didn't expect it to be so soon. Young Master Qin and young Master Gon are going as well. They can take care of each other. Lu Li, our forefather, said that you can go to the third heaven to look for him. He has been there for several years. I think he has established himself at the Ziyang mainland. Okay. Lu Li was wondering who to find to open the space gate to the Flying Fire continent. Azura was at the 4th tribulation realm. He should be able to establish himself at the third heaven soon. By then, it would be much easier to ask Azura for help. Chapter 2139. Lu Li and the others settled down in the Palace of Life. Li Xiaoyao needed to make some arrangements. The altar to teleport to the third heaven had been built. That being said, Activating it would consume a large amount of materials, and it would take several days. Lu Li and the others didn't mind spending a few days here. They settled down in peace. Axe Demon took Gonlin away and told him again. Lu Li went back to his room to have a good sleep so that he could be at his peak. However, he could not fall asleep when he went back to his room. After all, he was going to an unknown place full of dangers. He might not be able to come back after this trip. The Xiong land was too far away from the Flying Fire land. There was a continent and a vast ocean between them. What was more, the Xiong land was large, 10 times the size of the second heaven. If he could not activate the spatial portal, it would take him years to teleport from city to city. Dragon Rebel Valley, Lu Li murmured. A yellow bead appeared in his hand. He looked at it carefully, curious. What was this bead? Could he trade with the Dragon Rebel Valley for the ancient scroll by showing this bead? Buzzing, Lu Li released some divine energy. The bead glowed. Lu Li could use psychic power to check. He was surprised. He realized that the bead was an interspatial artifact with a large space inside. Ancient scroll. Lu Li's eyes glowed. There was a page of ancient scroll in the empty space. It seemed that the Asmodean and the warriors of the Dragon Rebel Valley were exchanging ancient scrolls. What? Lu Li checked the space and found a small stamp. The stamp looked familiar. Lu Li took it out after some thoughts. A small seal appeared in his hand. This small seal looked like a small mountain. The runes on the stamp looked familiar to Lu Li. He took a closer look. Suddenly, he narrowed his eyes. Buzzing, he took out the mountain. The mountain and the stamp glowed at the same time. Then, they flew toward each other and bumped into each other. There was no explosion. After a white glare, the stamp vanished into the mountain. Master, this is the 7th mountain. Little Six's voice rang in Lu Li's mind. Lu Li was confused. There were 9 mountains in total. Back then, some were destroyed, and the whereabouts of the other 3 were unknown. He didn't know that there was one in the yellow bead. Oh, right, Lu Li yelled in surprise. He met an old man at the Omen Island who saw through the 9 strange mountains and said that there was one on the Omen Island. Lu Li didn't know that the 9 strange mountains was in the hands of the Demon Lord. Lu Li was troubled. Was the mountain a gift from the Asmodean Lord? Or was it placed in the yellow bead to be exchanged with the people of the Dragon Rebel Valley? If he had used it to exchange for an ancient scripture, would the people of the Dragon Rebel Valley refuse to exchange it after he had fused with it? Buzz, Lu Li took out that page of the book and put on a forced smile after several glances. There were the words of the devil on the page, and it was written clearly, "Do not touch this page of the book." She gave him that mountain. Take this page of the book and exchange it with the warriors of the Dragon Rebel Valley. Everything is under the control of the great Demon King. Lu Li forced a smile. It seemed that the Demon King already knew that he had the 9 Wonders Mountain. The great Demon King didn't want to steal the treasure, or else the 9 strange mountains would have long been gone. That being said, both the great Demon King and the Axe Demon knew that holy weapons were more powerful than imperial weapons. Even the great Demon King didn't come for it. Clearly, she was not in need of treasures. Or maybe, given her abilities, she was not interested in the holy weapon. Little Six, since the mountain was a gift from the Demon King, Lu Li didn't hesitate to take it. He sent a message to the artifact spirit of the mountain. How much more powerful is it after fusing with the mountain? A lot. Little Six replied with certainty. Now, warriors below the Emperor realm can hardly shatter the mountain. Our attacks have been improved as well. Our rain of fire and wind blades have been improved by 3 times. We can use Woodbine now. If we can find the other 2 mountains, we can defeat warriors below the Emperor realm. Emperor realm? Lu Li frowned and asked, "Is at the Emperor realm a warrior at the 3rd heaven?" "Yes," Little Six replied. Lu Li asked with more curiosity, "Is the Emperor realm a realm? What kind of abilities can be considered at the Emperor realm?" "I don't know." Little Six didn't understand. He replied, "I only know that the first master, Emperor Mu, was at the Emperor realm. I can defeat everyone below the Emperor realm. Emperor Mu didn't have to do anything." "That's strong?" Lu Li was shocked. At the same time, he was excited. If he could find the other two mountains, he would have a complete emperor weapon. However, the Mountain of Nine Wonders was broken up. To find the other two mountains was like looking for a needle in a haystack. This was not something that could be forced. It was up to fate. Luli put away the mountain. It was not the right time to experiment. He would have to find a chance in the third heaven. Lying on the bed, Luli was in a daze, thinking about Jiang Qiling by Qiuxue and Prajna. He also thought about Little White. Ling Qingyan had been sending people to look for Little White, but to no avail. He wondered if Little White was killed or taken away by that mysterious, powerful warrior. The small divinity had many secrets. For example, who was the mysterious warrior that took Little White away? Who was the mysterious warrior that taught Lu Li the way to fly in the void? Why would someone from the Dragon Rebel Valley appear at the Mountain of Dragons? Lu Li had a feeling that the divinity was full of secrets that he could not find out. Those mysterious experts were elusive. No one knew where they came from. When did they go missing? Why could the devil not go to the third heaven? The axe demon said that the devil had offended a super warrior of the third heaven, but why didn't that warrior come down to kill the devil? Also, why didn't the Phoenix Queen and the Zhongsun family of the third heaven send powerful warriors down? Was it really as the devil said, that the second heaven had its own rules and that warriors from the third heaven would be suppressed when they came down? There were too many secrets and too many things that Lu Li could not figure out. Somehow, Lu Li had a feeling that there was a mysterious hand behind the scenes controlling his life and the direction of his life. However, the hand never showed up. Lu Li could not figure it out, no matter how hard he tried. Lu Li fell into a deep sleep after his mind wandered for half a night. He slept for 2 days. When he woke up, he felt refreshed. Lu Li sat in meditation for half a day. Someone called him. The teleportation altar was ready, and it was time for them to set off. Lu Li followed Li Xiaoyao to a mysterious valley. Outside the valley were warriors. In the valley was a huge altar with a diameter of more than 1,000 feet. Lu Li and the other two walked in. Ganlin's eyes were red. He dropped to one knee and said, "Grandpa, I cannot be a filial son. Please take care." The axe demon smiled. He was not sad about leaving. He waved his hand and said, "Go. Remember what I told you. Lu Li, you too. You must keep a low profile when you go to the third heaven. Only by staying alive can there be hope. Stay alive is the goal. Nothing else matters. Stay alive and come back." The axe demon said stay alive. Even though he pretended to be fine, he was actually worried about the 3 of them dying. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.